He was a broke mechanic raising a little girl on his own. She walked into his garage with shaking hands and begged him to pretend to be her boyfriend for just one weekend. He had no idea she was the secret heir to a billion-dollar empire, running from an arranged marriage to a man who would never let her go. When the truth exploded in the middle of a family dinner, he had to choose: walk away and keep his quiet life, or stand up and fight for the woman he had never dared to love. If you want to know how this story ends, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop the name of the city you're watching from in the comments so I can see how far my story has traveled. The first thing Nathan Cole noticed about the woman was her shoes. They did not belong in his garage. They did not belong anywhere near his garage. White leather, clean in a way nothing in this part of town stayed clean for more than an hour, with a thin gold buckle on the side that caught the late afternoon sun when she stepped over the oil stain by the bay door. He was under a '98 Silverado with his creeper half pulled out, and for about 3 seconds all he could see was those shoes and the hem of a pale blue dress that looked like it cost more than his monthly rent. "Excuse me, sir?" Her voice was small, not shy exactly. Careful, like someone who had learned young that volume was a thing that got you in trouble. Nathan rolled the rest of the way out and sat up, wiping his hands on a rag that did nothing except spread the grease around. He squinted up at her against the light coming in through the open bay. "Give me a second. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "Sorry." She took a step back and nearly tripped over the air hose coiled on the floor. He caught her wrist without thinking about it, just a reflex, and she flinched so hard he let go immediately. They stood there for a second, her breathing a little too fast, him with his hand still half raised like he was trying to prove he was not going to grab her again. "You okay?" Yes, I'm fine. I'm looking for Nathan Cole, the owner." He stood up all the way, and he was taller than she had probably figured from the ground. 6'1", built heavy through the shoulders from 12 years of pulling transmissions out of trucks. Dark hair that needed a cut, a 3-day beard, a grease stain on his forearm shaped almost exactly like the state of Florida. He knew what he looked like. He had stopped apologizing for it a long time ago. "That's me." "Oh." She blinked. "Oh, okay. Good. I was told you do engine work on older cars, European ones." "Sometimes. Depends what kind." "A Jaguar. A 1987 XJS." Nathan whistled without meaning to. "That's not what I'd call a daily driver." "It was my father's." Something in the way she said it made him stop wiping his hands, past tense, and the words came out flat. The way people said things when they had practiced saying them without crying. "All right," Nathan said. He tossed the rag onto the workbench and took a better look at her. She was maybe 26, 27, small, but not in a fragile way. There was something wound tight about her shoulders, something that made him think she could run a long way if she had to. Dark hair pulled back in a low braid. No makeup, or not enough that he could see it. Her eyes were a color he could not name, somewhere between green and brown. And they were doing that thing eyes did when someone had not slept in a week and was pretending they had. "Where's the car?" "Outside, across the street. I didn't want to pull in until I knew if you could look at it." "You could have called." "I didn't have the number." "It's on the sign." "Oh." She turned and looked at the sign out by the road, Cole Auto in faded red letters, the phone number below it, clear as day. Her face did something complicated. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." Nathan watched her a second longer, then walked past her to the bay door and looked out. The Jaguar was on the opposite shoulder of Route 9, its hazards on. Even from here he could see the car was immaculate. British racing green, the paint so deep it almost looked black in the shade of the oak on the corner. No rust around the wheel wells, no cracks in the rubber. Somebody had loved that car for a long time. "Bring it across," he said. "I'll hear it out first before I tell you anything." "Thank you, I'll be right back." She went out past him and waited at the shoulder for a pickup to pass, her hands folded in front of her like she was at a funeral. When the road cleared, she walked across and got into the Jag, and he watched her turn the key. The engine caught on the third try, rough, an uneven rumble that settled into something better after about 5 seconds. A V12 with a cold start problem, or a fuel pump going, or maybe both. She pulled into the second bay, and he had her cut the engine so he could listen to it tick as it cooled. "You've got a vacuum leak somewhere on the driver's side." he said, and the fuel pump's on its way out. Maybe 6 months, maybe 2 weeks. Depends on how hard you drive it. I don't drive it often. Good. He opened the hood. The engine bay was almost obscenely clean. When was the last time somebody worked on this? I don't know. My father had it serviced somewhere in Connecticut. I don't know where. Okay. Well, I can do the leak today if you've got the time. The pump I'd have to order. Parts not cheap on these. How much? Parts and labor, probably $1,100. Could go higher. She nodded like he had said $11. That's fine. Do it. Nathan looked at her over the open hood. Ma'am. Lena. Lena, that's a lot of money to say yes to that fast. She flushed. He watched the color come up her neck before it hit her cheeks. The way real embarrassment worked, not the performed kind. I'm sorry, I have the money. I'm not good at this part. I don't want to sound like I'm bargaining with you when I'm not. Nobody thinks you're bargaining. Some people do. He let that sit there. She did not explain it. He did not ask. All right, he said, leave it with me. Give me your number this time. I'll call you when I've got an idea how long. She pulled a phone out of a small bag he had not noticed, something soft and leather, and probably made by a person in Italy who had a single apprentice. The phone was the most expensive one he had ever seen in his shop, and he had seen a lot of phones. She read the number out to him, and he punched it into his own phone, which had a crack down the screen he had been ignoring for 8 months. Lena what? He asked. Hart. Nathan Cole. Like the sign says. She smiled for the first time, and it was a small crooked thing that was gone before it had really landed. I figured. She took an Uber somewhere. Nathan watched it pull away, and then he closed the bay door part way and went back into the office, where the air conditioner wheezed like a lifelong smoker, and the radio played the same classic rock station it had been playing since 2011. He pulled the paperwork for the Jag, started a ticket, and then he stood still for a minute with his hands flat on the counter and tried to figure out why his chest felt strange. It was not her. She was pretty, sure, but pretty women had come through the garage before. It was the way she had flinched when he grabbed her wrist. It was the way she had said, "My father had it serviced," and then her face had done nothing, and how that nothing was worse than if she had cried. It was the shoes. Nathan had grown up poor in a town where you could tell a person's whole life story from their shoes. And her shoes said she had been born into a life she no longer lived in. That did not mean she was broke now. It meant she was somewhere in between, and in between was always the most dangerous place to be. None of that was his problem. The car was his problem. Vacuum leak, fuel pump, ticket, phone call, keys back, done. He glanced at the clock. 3:40. He had 45 minutes before he had to lock up and get Ellie from aftercare. He went to work on the Jag. The school was 6 minutes away if the lights cooperated. They did not cooperate today, and Nathan pulled into the circle at Pine Ridge Elementary at 4:29, 1 minute before the aftercare staff started charging him late fees, which he could afford but resented on principle. Ellie was already waiting on the bench outside, her backpack in her lap and her sneakers kicking a slow rhythm against the concrete. When she saw the truck, her whole face changed. "Daddy!" "Hey, Ellie Bean." She ran over and threw the backpack into the passenger side and climbed up. The truck was too high for her, and she always needed the little grab handle to do it. But she had made him promise a year ago not to lift her in because she was, and this was a direct quote, basically 7. She was 6.5. How was school? Good. Mrs. Patel said I was the best at vowels. Yeah? She said I was the best in the group, not the whole class, but the group. That's a big group? 4 people. That's still top 25%. What's 25%? It means you beat 3 other people. I didn't beat them. It's not a race. Everything's a race if you want it to be. That's a weird thing to say, Daddy. Nathan laughed, and then he reached over and smoothed a piece of her hair down where it had come out of the braid his sister Marion had put in that morning. Marion was the reason Ellie had braids instead of whatever Nathan would have done, which was, at best, a ponytail with 3 different kinds of hair tie. What do you want for dinner? Spaghetti? We had spaghetti Tuesday, and we can have it Friday. That's the rule. That's not a rule, that's you being stubborn. Marion said it's a rule. Marion is not in charge of dinner. She's in charge of the hair. The hair is different. How? Because I can't do hair, and I can make dinner. You can't make spaghetti as good as her. That is objectively true, and it hurts my feelings. Ellie giggled. It was his favorite sound in the world, and it had been since she was 4 months old and it had first come out of her, sitting in a high chair with applesauce on her chin. They got spaghetti. The call from Lena came at 7:14 the next morning, while Nathan was standing in his kitchen waiting for the coffee to finish and arguing with Ellie about whether oatmeal counted as a breakfast she had agreed to. Mr. Cole? Nathan. Nathan, this is Lena Hart, from the Jaguar. I was going to call you around 9, the pump's in. Took me a minute to find the right one, but it's here. That's good. That's actually why I'm calling. Would it be possible to come by before the rest of your day? I don't want to take much of your time. I need to ask you something. There was a long pause. Nathan set the coffee down. Something about the car? No. He watched Ellie try to feed her oatmeal to the dog, and the dog, who had been through this before, back away slowly. Ellie, put the bowl back. The dog wants it. The dog does not want it. The dog is being polite. Into the phone he said, "What is this about, Lena?" It's going to sound insane. I know how it's going to sound. I just need 5 minutes. He thought about saying no. He thought about saying his schedule was full, which was only mostly a lie. He thought about the way she had flinched yesterday, and the way she had said my father had it serviced, and the white shoes that did not belong in his garage. I'll be at the shop at 8:30. Come by at 9. Thank you, thank you. She hung up before he could say anything else, and Nathan stood in his kitchen and looked at his phone and thought very clearly the sentence, "This is going to be a mistake." Then he poured Ellie more milk and did not ask himself why he had said yes. She showed up at 8:57, 3 minutes early, and she was in different clothes this time. Jeans, a gray sweater, the same leather bag. Her hair was down. She looked younger without the braid. She also looked like she had slept even less than yesterday, which was an impressive feat. Nathan was in the office with his second coffee and the door to the bays open so he could hear the radio. She knocked on the door frame even though the door was open and waited for him to wave her in. "Morning," he said. "Good morning." "Sit down. You want coffee? It's not good." "I'm okay." She sat on the edge of the chair across from his desk, like she expected it to be pulled out from under her. He leaned back in his own chair and crossed his arms and waited. She said, "I'm going to tell you this badly. I've been practicing it in the car for 40 minutes, and it is still going to come out badly. I need you to let me finish before you throw me out. Is that okay?" "I'm not going to throw you out." "You might." "I'm not." She breathed in, breathed out. "I need somebody to pretend to be my boyfriend this weekend." Nathan did not move. He did not blink. He stared at her for what felt like a long time, but was probably about 4 seconds. "Say that again." "There's a family event. My grandmother's 80th birthday, Saturday night, at a house in Greenwich. My whole family is going to be there, and there's a person who... There are some people who are going to try to introduce me to somebody, and I need to not be introducible. I need to show up with somebody, to close that off, before it starts. A person. A man. And you want a stranger to show up and say he's your boyfriend?" "Yes." "Why me?" "Because I don't know anybody." "You don't know anybody?" "Not anyone I could ask. Not anyone who wouldn't. Not anyone who isn't already connected to my family. I needed somebody who had no connection. Nobody who's been in the rooms I've been in. Nobody they could trace." "Why did you pick me?" "I didn't pick you. I came here for the car." "And then you picked me." "Yes." He almost laughed. He did not laugh. "Ma'am." "Lena." "Lena, I'm a mechanic. I've got oil under my fingernails that's older than the shop. I don't own a suit. I've got a 6-year-old daughter at home." "I know, The daughter I didn't know, but the rest, I know. You know." "I'm sorry. I drove by last week. I saw you. With her. In the parking lot of the grocery store on Elm. I'd been trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I saw you, and I saw the way you were with her, and I thought, you were stalking me." "I wasn't stalking you." "You were stalking me." "I was looking for somebody who looked like a good person." He let out a breath. His coffee was cold. He drank it anyway. Lena, listen. Whatever this is about, you need a lawyer or a cop or a friend with a guest room. You do not need a guy you saw in a parking lot. I have a lawyer. I have cops if I want them. I don't have a friend because every friend I have is paid for by my family, and you don't understand how that works until you try to get one of them to help you with something my family doesn't want. Then go to the cops. There's nothing illegal. Then what's the problem? The problem, her voice cracked for the first time, and she shut her eyes for a second, and when she opened them, they were wet, but she had not cried yet. The problem is that I am very tired, and I have tried a lot of things, and this is the one I have left. And if you say no, I understand. I will pay for the Jaguar. I will get out of your hair. I won't come back. I'm not dangerous to you. I'm not trouble, except for myself. I needed to try. Nathan was quiet a long time. Outside, a truck went by on Route 9 with a loose chain rattling against the bed. The radio was playing a song his father used to sing along to in the car, back when Nathan was small enough to sit in the middle of the bench seat without a booster. How much? He said. $2,000. For the weekend. Plus anything you have to buy. A suit, whatever. I'll pay for all of it. Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon. We drive up, I introduce you, we get through dinner and the party, we stay the night in guest rooms, we drive back. I never bother you again. $2,000. 4 if you want. I have the money. I don't care about the money. I don't want your money. Then I don't know what I'm supposed to offer you. He shook his head. That's not what I mean. I'm not saying yes for the money. Her face shifted, just barely. Her shoulders dropped a fraction of an inch. He saw it, and he hated that he had seen it. So, you're saying yes? I'm saying I'm thinking. Oh, and I've got a daughter. I can't leave for a weekend. I don't have anyone to leave her with. My sister's... He stopped. I don't. That's a thing. Bring her. What? Bring her. She can come. It's a big house. There's lots of kids there. Cousins, dogs. Nobody will... It'll actually make it more believable if you have your daughter, single dad, with his girlfriend. I'm not... Her hands went up in a little helpless gesture. I'm not using her as a prop. I'm just saying you can bring her. I'm not asking you to leave her. She's a kid. I can't bring her into the middle of some... whatever this is. I don't even know what this is. It's not dangerous. Everybody says that before the thing turns out to be dangerous. I'm telling you it isn't. I would tell you if it was. You came in here lying about why you were here, Lena. I wasn't lying. I needed the car fixed. You picked the shop because you wanted to ask me. Both things are true. He stared at her. She stared back. Her eyes were the color he had not been able to name yesterday. In the light from the office window, they were almost hazel, with a ring of darker green around the outside. He was going to say no. He was absolutely going to say no. He had a daughter. He had a shop. He had a quiet life he had built very deliberately after Rebecca had died. A life made out of routines because routines were the only thing that had kept him upright that first year. He did not need any of this. He said, I want to know the truth first, not all of it. I don't need all of it. But I want to know more than you're telling me, because I'm not walking my kid into something blind. Lena looked at the floor for a long time. Then she said very quietly, My family is not a normal family. They have a lot of money. They care a lot about who their children marry. There's a man they want me to marry. His family has interests that align with my family's interests. I've said no 100 times. They have stopped hearing me. The only thing that works, in my family, is facts on the ground. If I show up at this birthday alone, they're going to put me in a chair next to him at dinner. And the next morning, somebody will be quoted in a business magazine about a partnership, and it will be very hard to walk back without people getting hurt. If I show up with somebody, they can't start. That's all this is. I need a week, maybe 2, to get somewhere where I can get this. I have to get somewhere I can get this untangled. But I need the momentum to stop. Now. Saturday. What's his name? What? The guy. What's his name? She hesitated. Does it matter? Yes. Adrian. His name is Adrian Vance. Is he going to be there? Yes. Is he a dangerous man? Not in the way you mean. What way do I mean? He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt me. He's going to be angry. He's going to be polite about being angry. That's his thing. That sounds worse. It's worse in a different way. Nathan was quiet for a long time. I need to talk to my sister. Okay. If she can't watch Ellie, I'm out. Okay. If she can, and I say yes, we do this my way. I drive. I don't take anyone's money. We do the one night. You give me the address. I meet you at the gas station down the road from wherever it is, not at your wherever you live. I don't want to know that stuff yet. And if anything feels wrong, I take Ellie and we leave. No argument. Yes. Yes to all of it. And I'm not taking $4,000. You have to take something. I'm fixing your car. You're paying me for the car. That's different. It's what I'm doing. Nathan, there's a cost to this. A suit, gas, a whole weekend, a ruined weekend with your kid. I cannot let you do this for free. 200 for gas and a suit, 2,000, 400, 1,500, 500, and I'm done negotiating. She looked at him like she had never seen a person before. Are you haggling me down on the money I'm supposed to pay you? I'm not a charity case. I know you're not a charity case. I'm not trying to 500. Take it or leave it. Take it. Fine. Good. Now get out of my office so I can call my sister. She stood up. She almost smiled. She almost said something. Then she just nodded once and walked out of the bay, and Nathan watched her go through the open door and stood up and came around the desk and closed the door and leaned against it and said out loud to nobody, "What are you doing?" The dog, which was at home, did not answer him. Marian answered on the third ring. She was at the hospital, on break, and her voice had that particular cadence she got when she was eating something too fast. What? Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. You don't call me on a workday unless something's wrong. Can you take Ellie this weekend? There was a long pause, then the distinct sound of Marian swallowing. Take her where? My place. She can stay at yours, or I can, whatever works for you. Friday night through Sunday afternoon. What are you doing? I'm doing a favor. A favor for who? A woman. Another pause, this one much longer. Nathan, don't. I'm not saying anything. You're about to say something. I'm thinking it very loudly. Think it more quietly. What's her name? Does it matter? Yes. Lena. Lena what? Hart. There was a third pause. This one had a different quality. Marian said slowly, Hart, like the hotels? What? The Hart hotels, the Hart, the foundation. There's a Hart Industries. I read there was a thing in the journal about a Hart, a family, Connecticut. I don't know. What does she look like? Marian? What does she look like, Nathan? Why? Because if she's the Hart I'm thinking of, there was a picture of the granddaughter, small, dark hair, sort of pretty in that not showy way. Nathan was quiet. Nathan. Maybe. Nathan, for God's... Don't say it. I wasn't going to say that. Yes, you were. I was going to say Christ on a cracker. That's worse. What are you doing, Nate? I don't know. I'm going to a birthday party. A birthday party? Her grandmother's 80th. Nathan, yes. Are you bringing my niece? Yes. Oh my God. She asked me to. Lena asked me to. She said it makes it more... Never mind. I talked to Ellie about it last night. I said there was a big house with dogs and cousins and she could go. She's excited. I'll watch her every minute. I can come. No. I have the weekend. I can come. Marian, no. I'll drive separately. I'll stay at a hotel nearby. I won't even go to the party. But I'm not letting my brother and my niece drive up to some estate in Connecticut to meet a bunch of rich strangers alone. What if something happens? Nothing is going to happen. You keep saying that, and you have no way of knowing that. Nathan pinched the bridge of his nose. He did know she was right. He had known it since she had answered the phone. That was why he had called her instead of Angela next door, who would have been an easier ask for the babysitting. A hotel nearby. You stay there. You don't come to the house. If I call, you come. If I don't call, you stay put. Deal. And you tell nobody. Who am I going to tell, Nate? Anybody. Mom. Derek. Nobody. Not until this is done. Okay. Okay, Nate. Okay. There was a pause, and then she said in a softer voice, "Are you all right? You sound something." "I'm fine." "Oh, Nate. I'm fine. I don't know what I'm doing." "Yeah," she said. "Yeah, that tracks." That night, Nathan told Ellie. He sat her on the kitchen counter, her legs dangling, her heels bumping the cabinet below, and he told her there was a lady, a nice lady, whose grandma was turning 80, and they were invited to the party, and they were going to drive up to a big house on Saturday and stay one night. And Aunt Marion was going to be around too, but in her own hotel, because it was grown-up stuff. Ellie thought about this very seriously. She had her mother's concentrating face, the little pinch between the eyebrows. "Is she your girlfriend?" "What? No. Mrs. Patel got a boyfriend, and she had to tell the class because Kenzie saw him pick her up." "She's not my girlfriend, Ellie." "Then why are you going to her grandma's party?" "Because she's a friend." "You don't have friends." "That is so hurtful." "You have Uncle Derek." "Uncle Derek is a friend." "He's a cousin." "He's both." "Okay," Ellie said. "But she's a new friend." "Yes." "Okay." She bumped the cabinet with her heel twice, and then she said, "Is she nice?" Nathan thought about the flinch, the white shoes, the way she had said $2,000 like it was $5, the way she had said facts on the ground, the way she had looked at him like she had never seen a person before when he had haggled her down on her own money. "Yeah," he said. "I think she is. Nervous, though." "Why is she nervous?" "Because her family is complicated." "Our family is complicated." "How do you figure?" "Aunt Marion fights with Grandma a lot. That's not complicated. That's just loud." "What's the difference?" "Complicated is when everybody's being nice and nobody actually is." Ellie considered this. Her heels stopped bumping. "That sounds worse." "It is worse. We should be nice to her. That's the plan." She nodded, final, the way she did when a decision was made. Then she said, "What should I wear?" "Your blue dress." "The one with the flowers." "The one with the flowers." "Okay." And then, very seriously, "I will be nice to her grandma." "Good. Even if her grandma is mean, because she's old and she's having a birthday." "That's very mature." "Kenzie said you have to be nice to old people even if they are mean because they didn't used to be. That's what her mom said." "Kenzie's mom sounds smart." "She cries at soccer. Even smart people cry at soccer." Ellie laughed. She kicked the cabinet again. Nathan lifted her down off the counter and carried her to the couch and put on the show she liked about the tiny animals who ran a bakery. And she fell asleep against his chest halfway through the second episode, and he stayed on the couch for a long time after that, not watching the show, just feeling her breathe against his ribs. This is going to be a mistake, he thought. And also, at the same time, in a part of his mind he did not want to look at too directly. It was the most interesting thing that had happened to him in 4 years. He did not know yet that he was right about both. Thursday, he took the Jaguar apart more than it strictly needed to be taken apart. He replaced the fuel pump. He fixed the vacuum leak, which was at a perished hose on the driver's side, exactly where he had said it would be. He tested the spark on every cylinder. He changed the oil even though it was not due, because the oil smelled faintly wrong and he didn't trust the last place that had touched it. He did not charge her for any of that extra work. Friday morning, Lena came by at 9:30 to pick up the car. She was in jeans again, and a black jacket that was too warm for the weather, and she had not slept any better than the last time he had seen her. "How is it?" she asked. "It's good. Runs clean. It's going to run better than it has in years." "Thank you. I want you to get it serviced again in 6 months. Not at the Connecticut place. Here, or somewhere that knows these. Somebody has been doing the minimum on it for a while. I will." He handed her the keys. 9 in the morning tomorrow, he said, the gas station on Route 7. The one at the exit before the tolls. "I remember." Ellie's coming. I know. Marion will be at a hotel nearby. I told her where we'd be. Good. I'm glad. They stood on either side of the counter, and Lena did a small thing that Nathan would think about a lot later. She put her hand flat on the counter, halfway across, like she was going to reach for his, and then she didn't, and she took it back. Thank you, she said. I know you keep saying it's nothing. It's not nothing. Get out of my shop, Lena. She smiled, that same small crooked thing. Then she took the keys and went. Nathan watched her drive the Jaguar out of the lot. The engine did not even hesitate. The sound was clean all the way down the road until she turned at the light and was gone. He stood there for another minute with his hand still on the counter where hers had been. Then he went into the bay and started on the Silverado because there was work to do and because he needed something loud and mechanical to drown out the very specific sound of his own life starting to change. Saturday morning, Ellie was up at 6:30 with her blue dress already on, her sneakers on the wrong feet, and a plastic bag of what she called supplies, which on inspection turned out to be 3 stuffed animals, 2 books, a juice box, and a small plastic horse. I'm ready. It's 6:30. I know. We leave at 8. I know, I'm practicing. Practicing what? Being ready. Nathan made pancakes. Ellie ate 2.5 and then got too excited to eat anymore. He ate the rest standing up at the counter in his one good pair of jeans and a white button-down shirt that Marion had steamed for him last night, which was an event he was going to hear about for the rest of his life. He had bought a suit on Thursday. It was off the rack, dark gray. Not perfect in the shoulders, but it was clean and it fit him better than anything he had worn since Rebecca's funeral, which was a comparison he was trying hard not to make. The suit was in a garment bag on a hanger hooked over the back of the kitchen door. Ellie had asked him about it 3 separate times. Are we going to a wedding? No. Are we going to a funeral? No. Then why's the suit? Because it's a fancy party. Oh. At 7:50 they got in the truck. Ellie buckled herself in, very proud, and Nathan pulled out onto the road, and the morning was clear and cool, and the sky over the fields east of town was the kind of pale, almost pink blue that did not last long. Ellie talked about a frog she had seen at school yesterday for most of the drive. Nathan listened. He nodded at the right parts. He checked the rear view every few minutes out of a habit he had not had before this week. They pulled into the gas station on Route 7 at 8:59. Lena was already there. The Jaguar was parked by the pump farthest from the road, idling softly, her standing next to it in a long camel-colored coat even though it was not cold. She was wearing the same kind of shoes she had worn the first day. White, clean, out of place. When she saw the truck, something happened in her face that Nathan did not have a word for. Relief, maybe. Or something more complicated than relief. Something that looked like it had been held for a long time and had just now been allowed to sit down. He parked. He killed the engine. He looked at Ellie, who was staring at the Jaguar with her mouth a little open. That's a nice car, Daddy. Yeah, that's her car. The ladies? The ladies. Wow. Yeah. Is she the lady? That's her. Ellie studied Lena through the windshield, her concentrating face on full blast. She looks tired. Nathan did not say anything. Daddy, she looks tired. I know, Bean, I know she does. He unbuckled his seatbelt, and then he reached across and unbuckled hers, and he looked at his daughter one more time before they got out of the truck. Be nice. I know. Especially today, okay? I know, Daddy. He opened the door. Lena crossed the lot toward them before Nathan had even gotten his own door fully open, and she stopped a few feet short of the truck like she had been told, at some point in her life, not to rush anyone. Her hands were in the pockets of the long coat. Her eyes went from Nathan to Ellie and then stayed on Ellie, and something in her face that had been wound up loosened a little. Hi, she said. She crouched down right there in the gas station parking lot, and she did not do the voice. That was the first thing Nathan noticed. A lot of adults did a voice for kids, a high-pitched sing-song thing, and Ellie had, since she was about 3, treated those adults with a kind of patient contempt. Lena just crouched down and looked at her like she was a person. You must be Ellie. Yes. I'm Lena. I know. Oh, good. Ellie tilted her head. You have tired eyes. Nathan closed his own eyes for about a second, which was his version of a long scream. Lena laughed. It was a real laugh, short and a little startled. I do. I haven't been sleeping very well. Why not? Because I'm nervous about today. Daddy says you're nervous about your family. Your daddy is right. My daddy is usually right. I will remember that. Ellie studied her for another second, and then she reached into her plastic bag of supplies and pulled out the small plastic horse, the brown one, and held it out. This is Pepper. Hello, Pepper. You can hold her today if you want. She's good for nervous. Lena looked up at Nathan, and Nathan looked away because something had gone tight in his throat, and he was not going to be the guy who choked up in a gas station parking lot in front of a woman he barely knew. He pretended to be very interested in a stain on the concrete. Thank you, Ellie, Lena said, and she took the horse. She held it in her palm like it was made of glass. I'll take very good care of her. She doesn't like fast driving. Noted. And she gets scared if you put her face down. I won't put her face down. Okay. Ellie, satisfied, went back to the truck and began the complicated process of climbing back up into the passenger seat with her plastic bag. Lena stood up slowly. She was still holding the horse. For a second, Nathan saw her face without her arranging it, and it was a face that had just been handed something by a small child and had not known how to put it away inside her fast enough. She's something else, Lena said, low. Yeah, she is. I won't put her in anything she shouldn't be in today. I know. I mean it. If it starts to go sideways, Lena, I know. She looked at him a second too long, and then she nodded. Okay. You want to follow us, or you want us to follow you? Follow me. It's a stretch of road that gets weird after the tolls. Just stay behind me. I won't go fast. All right. She started to turn toward the Jaguar, and then she stopped. Nathan? Yeah. On the way in, to the house, there's a gate. There's going to be a man in a uniform. He's going to ask for your ID. I need you to give him whatever name you gave me at the shop. Nathan Cole. That one. That's fine. That's a thing. That's the only thing that's a thing at the gate. Okay? After that, it's a driveway. It's long. Don't freak out about the driveway. Okay? And the house is bigger than it needs to be. I'm sorry in advance. I've seen houses. Not this kind. I'll manage. She almost smiled. Right, okay, let's go. She got into the Jaguar and Nathan got into the truck, and Ellie from the passenger seat said, She's nice. Yeah. She smells like oranges. Does she? A little. And soap. Okay. Daddy. Yeah. I'm going to be very good today. I promise. He reached over and squeezed the top of her hand, and then he put the truck in drive, and they followed the Jaguar out of the gas station and east toward the tolls. The drive was quieter than he had expected. Ellie fell asleep 20 minutes in, her head against the seatbelt, and Nathan kept the radio low and kept the green Jaguar in view 2 cars ahead. The road went through some farm country and then some woods, and then it started climbing into a part of Connecticut he had never been in, where the stone walls got straighter and the houses got smaller at the front and longer at the back, the way old houses did when generations had built onto them instead of tearing them down. After almost 2 hours, Lena's blinker went on and she turned onto a narrow lane off the main road. There was no sign. Nathan made the turn behind her and the lane went through a stand of maples and then straightened out along a low stone wall, and at the end of the wall there was a gate. The gate was not the kind of gate Nathan had pictured. It was quiet. Iron, with gold tips, but not showy. There was a small booth to the side, and a man in a dark coat stepped out of it as the Jaguar approached. Lena rolled her window down and said something Nathan could not hear. The man in the coat nodded and looked past her at the truck. Then he walked, not fast, not slow, over to Nathan's driver's side. Nathan rolled his window down. ID, please, sir. Nathan pulled out his wallet and handed over his license. The man looked at it, then looked at Nathan, then looked at the inside of the truck, where Ellie was sleeping with her mouth open and the plastic bag of supplies tipped sideways between her knees. Child's name? Eleanor Cole. Relationship? Daughter. The man handed the license back and said, neutral. Welcome, Mr. Cole. Straight up the drive, park by the north entrance. Someone will meet you. Thanks. The gate opened. Nathan drove through. Lena had waited for him on the other side, her window still down, and when he was alongside her for a moment, she gave him a look that was half apology and half bracing. Then she pulled ahead. She had not been kidding about the driveway. It ran through a sweep of open grass, then past a pond, then up a gentle rise lined with old trees that had been planted 100 years ago by somebody who had thought a lot about what the driveway would look like in 100 years. The house came up slowly. It did not announce itself. It just kept being more house than it had been the second before. Stone. 3 stories, wings on both sides. A circular turnaround in front with a dry fountain in the middle. "Whoa," said Ellie, who had woken up. "Daddy?" "Yeah. Is that her house?" "I think it's her grandma's." "Her grandma's house is a castle." "It's a big house." "It's a castle." "Okay, it's a castle." "I love it." "Do not say that to anyone." "Why not?" "Because it's polite to pretend you see castles all the time." "That's dumb." "It is dumb. It's what we're doing." They parked where they had been told. An older man in a gray vest appeared at Nathan's door before he had fully turned the engine off, which made Nathan jump, which made the older man very slightly smile. "May I take your bag, sir?" "I got it." "Very good, sir." Nathan got out. He walked around the truck and opened Ellie's door, and she slid down into his arms. And then she stood on her own 2 feet and straightened her blue dress with the flowers on it very seriously, the way a person does before a job interview. Lena was already standing at the front of the Jaguar, a small overnight case beside her, and the Jaguar was being driven off by someone else to some part of the property Nathan could not see. "Ready?" she said. "No." "Me neither." "Great. Good talk." She laughed, short, and then she held out her hand. He stared at it for a second. "We should probably," she said. "Right. Yeah." He took her hand. Her fingers were cold even through his calluses. Ellie looked at their hands without saying anything and then reached up and took Nathan's other one, which was a thing she had not done since she was 4, and his chest did something he did not have time to deal with. They went in. The foyer had a ceiling 2 floors high and a staircase that split in 2 halfway up, and there were flowers on a table in the middle that were so tall Nathan had to walk around them instead of past them. A woman in a dark dress materialized out of nowhere and said, in a voice that had clearly been trained somewhere, "Miss Hart, your grandmother is in the sunroom. She asked to see you before the luncheon." "Thank you, Mrs. Alden. This is Nathan Cole and his daughter Eleanor. Could you show them to the East guest rooms? I'll come find them in a bit." "Of course, miss." Lena squeezed Nathan's hand before she let go. It was a quick pressure, gone before he could decide if it meant anything. And then she was walking away across the foyer in her white shoes, and Mrs. Alden was smiling at Ellie in a way that was very professional and not quite warm. "Right this way, Mr. Cole. Miss Eleanor." Ellie, still holding his hand, whispered, "Daddy." "Yeah." "Why does she call you Mister?" "Because it's that kind of house." "What kind?" "Fancy." "She's scary." "She's not scary, she's just fancy." "Same thing." The East guest room turned out to be a suite with 2 bedrooms, a small sitting area between them, and a bathroom with a tub Nathan could have taken a nap in. The bed, Ellie claimed, was a 4-poster almost as tall as she was. She stood looking up at it with her plastic bag in her fist. "How do I get up there?" "There's a step. Look." "Oh." She climbed up and sat in the middle of the bed and bounced experimentally. Then she stopped and looked at him. "Daddy?" "Yeah." "I don't like it here." He came over and sat on the edge of the bed. "What don't you like?" "The lady who brought us here doesn't smile right. Some people don't smile the same way we do. It doesn't mean anything. And it's too quiet. It's a big house. Big houses are quiet." "Daddy." "Yeah, Bean." "Can we still leave if I want to?" He put his hand on the small of her back. "Yes. We can still leave if you want to. I promised, and I meant it. But I'm going to ask you to try to make it to dinner, okay? I'm going to ask you to try. And if at dinner, or any time tonight, you feel like it's really bad, you tell me, and we get Aunt Marion and we go. Deal?" "Deal." "Shake on it." They shook on it. She used her whole hand. She was very serious about it. There was a knock at the door. Lena, when he opened it. She had taken off the camel coat. Underneath, she was in a simple dark green dress that went to her knees and a small string of pearls, and she looked for the first time since he had met her like the house she lived in, like the shoes. like the jaguar. It was not bad. It was just a version of her he had not seen yet. He could tell, looking at her, that this was the version the rest of the people in this house had always seen, and it was a relief to him, somewhere deep, to realize he had met the other one first. "Is she okay?" Lena asked, low. "She's adjusting. I'm going to introduce you to my grandmother, just her, before the lunch." She asked, "Okay, she's going to be fine. She's the only good one. I should have told you that." "There's one good one?" "There's one good one." "Okay." He turned to Ellie. "Hey, Bean, I have to go meet somebody for a second. You want to stay here or come?" "Come." "Okay." They went down a long hall hung with paintings of people who had all been painted in the same year by the same painter, apparently, because they all had the same serious mouth. Lena walked a little ahead of them. Ellie held Nathan's hand and swung it, which he knew meant she was anxious. The sunroom was at the back of the house. It was all glass on 3 sides, and it looked out over a lawn that ran down to a line of trees, and beyond that the gray wink of water. An old woman was sitting in a wicker chair with a blanket over her knees, even though the sun was warming the floor tiles. She did not get up when they came in. She looked over, slowly, with eyes that were sharper than any part of the rest of her. "Lena." "Grandmother." "You brought them." "Yes. Come closer, all of you. My eyes are terrible today." Her eyes, Nathan could tell already, were not terrible. They came closer. Lena stopped about a pace ahead of Nathan. Nathan stood with his hand on Ellie's shoulder. The old woman studied him for what felt like a long time, and then she studied Ellie for a longer time, and something in her face shifted, the smallest flicker, and then it was gone. "Mr. Cole," she said. "Ma'am." "Is that what you call women in your part of the world, usually?" She looked at Lena. "I approve of him already. 2 syllables, and already I know where I stand." Lena did not quite smile. "Grandmother, don't." "Don't what?" "Don't have opinions? I'm 80 tomorrow. I have earned my opinions." She looked back at Nathan. "Come here, child." Ellie looked up at Nathan. Nathan nodded, once. Ellie let go of his hand and took 3 careful steps forward and stopped in front of the old woman's chair. "What is your name?" "Eleanor Jane Cole." "Jane is a good name. It was my sister's name." "Is she here?" "No, dear. She died a long time ago." "Oh." Ellie thought about this. "I'm sorry." "So was I." Ellie reached into her dress pocket, where she had apparently transferred the plastic horse at some point without Nathan noticing, and held it out. "This is Pepper. Lena had her in the car, but I thought maybe you might be nervous too because it's your party, and nervous is hard, so." The old woman stared at her. Then she took the plastic horse. She held it in one thin hand. She was quiet for what seemed like a very long time, and when she looked up at Lena, her eyes were doing something Nathan could not read. "Well," she said. Her voice was not quite the same. "Well, Lena, I see." Lena was looking at the floor. "Mr. Cole," the old woman said. "Yes, ma'am." "This is a strange weekend for you, I imagine." "Little bit. You're aware of the situation." "Some of it." "You are aware of Mr. Vance." "I know the name." "Good." She handed the horse back to Ellie with great care. "Thank you, Eleanor. I'll borrow her in my mind. She was kind to offer." "You can keep her if you want." "No, dear. Pepper belongs with you." She looked up again, and her eyes were back to sharp. "Lena, I want you at my left at the table. Mr. Cole at my right. Grandmother, the seating. The seating is mine. I made it. I'll unmake it. Are you sure?" "Yes." Lena closed her eyes for a second. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Your aunt is going to be furious." "Aunt Cecily is always furious." "Yes, but this time she'll be right, in her own way. Now, all of you go. I need 10 minutes alone to be an old woman. Send me Mrs. Alden on your way out." They left the sunroom. Lena did not speak until they were halfway down the hall. "She likes you." "She likes Ellie." "She likes Ellie. Yes, but she also likes you." "I could tell. You said ma'am. She liked that." "That's all it takes?" "With her sometimes. She collects tiny things and builds theories out of them." "Sounds exhausting." "It is. But she's the only reason I'm still in this family, so." They turned a corner. A man was coming the other way down the hall, a middle-aged man in a navy blazer with a drink already in his hand at 11:45 in the morning, and Nathan watched Lena's shoulders go back half an inch. "Lena, Uncle Tobias, you're here. I said I would be. And you brought—" His eyes landed on Nathan. They did a quick full scan top to bottom, and Nathan felt the scan the way he felt a bad alternator in a running car, a tiny wrongness under the sound of everything working. "Hello? Uncle Tobias, this is Nathan Cole. Nathan, my Uncle Tobias Hart. Pleasure. Good to meet you." Tobias Hart held out his hand. His grip was firm and too long. His smile was practiced. He was wearing a wedding ring that had been cleaned recently enough to catch the light. "Cole, is it? And what line of work, Mr. Cole?" "I own a garage." "A garage? How charming." He said charming like a small cold wind. "And how did you and Arlana come to meet?" "I worked on her car." "Ah, the Jaguar, of course, that poor car." "It's a good car. Somebody just hadn't been looking at it right." "And now you're looking at it right." "Yes, sir." "Well, enjoy the luncheon, Mr. Cole. We're a large family. Don't be overwhelmed." "I'll try not to be." "And this must be your—" "Eleanor," said Ellie, from about the height of Nathan's elbow. "Cole." Tobias Hart looked down. He did the smile again. "How lovely. Eleanor. A big name for a little thing." Ellie did not smile back. She did not say anything. She just looked at him with the exact face she had when the vacuum cleaner at home started up unexpectedly. Tobias Hart's smile cracked a little. "Well, do enjoy?" He nodded, once to Lena, whose face had not moved once during the entire exchange, and then he brushed past them and kept walking. When he was around the corner, Lena let out a long, shaking breath. "Don't like him," said Ellie. "Me either, Bean," Lena said, before she seemed to realize she had said it. Nathan glanced at her. "That one's going to be a problem?" he said, low. "Everyone's going to be a problem. He's just the first one." "Great. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just, if it's going to be bad, tell me what's coming. Tell me before, not after." Okay, I will." They walked back to the guest suite. Ellie asked if she could change her tights because the tights she had on were itchy, and Nathan helped her into a different pair, and Lena stood by the window with her back to them both, looking out at the lawn, her hands folded in front of her the same way she had folded them at the side of the road a few days ago. "Lena." "Yeah." "Come here a second." She turned. He was sitting on the edge of the four-poster with Ellie on his lap. He patted the bed beside him. Lena hesitated, then came over and sat at the other end, her knees turned slightly toward them. "Tell me about the players," he said. "Before we go down there, I don't need the whole tree. Just who's going to matter tonight." She took a breath. Okay. My grandmother, Margaret Hart. You met her. She's the one who built most of it. My grandfather died 15 years ago. She's still the chair. She still decides. Officially, her son, my Uncle Tobias, the one we just met, runs day to day. Unofficially, she overrules him about once a month. He doesn't like that. No. Okay? My father was her older son. He died when I was 19. Car accident. That's when things started. That's when things changed. My father was supposed to take over. He didn't. Tobias did. He's done a fine job, technically, but he has plans for the company that my grandmother doesn't love, and he needs money, and the Vance merger is a lot of money. That's where Adrian comes in. His family? Vance Holdings. They make things you've never heard of that go into things you have. Grandfather used to do business with their grandfather. There was a handshake apparently 50 years ago that the families would someday be aligned. Nobody took it seriously except Tobias, and Adrian's mother, who will also be here tonight. Cool. Great. Her name is Vivian. She's worse than Tobias. Worse how? Smarter. Great. My Aunt Cecily, my grandmother's daughter, will be here. She doesn't have any power in the company, but she has a mouth like a saw. She's the one my grandmother meant when she said Cecily would be furious about the seating. Why? Because the seating says I'm the one grandmother approves of, and Cecily has wanted Tobias to inherit everything since the day my father died. She's on his side. Anybody on your side? She was quiet for a second. grandmother, you, Ellie, apparently. That's a small team. That's a really small team. We'll make do. She looked at him. She was trying very hard not to let her face do anything, and he could see each of the things it was not doing. Nathan? Yeah. If I tell you to stop, stop. If I squeeze your hand twice, change the subject. If I squeeze it 3 times, we leave the room, not the house, just the room. 2, change subject. 3, leave the room. Yes. And if I squeeze your hand, then I'll know you want me to change the subject, which is fine. You can do that too. Okay, one more thing. Yeah. If at any point this turns out to be more than what you told me, anything, I take her and I go. I'm not threatening you. I'm just being honest. I can't play through something I didn't agree to. I know. Okay. Nathan. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you down there. I'm going to lie to them about you. I'm not going to lie to you. All right. Okay. Ellie had been quiet this whole time, listening, watching both of them in turn, the way she watched grown-ups in doctors' offices. Now she said, "Are we going to eat soon?" Lena laughed. It broke something in the air. Ha. Yes, Ellie. We're going to eat soon. Good, because I'm hungry. And the bathroom has little soaps shaped like shells, and I don't want to smell them on my stomach. Noted, said Nathan. The luncheon was in a long room that looked out over the lawn. The table was already most of the way set when Lena led them in, with about 20 people milling around with drinks, and a woman Nathan took to be Aunt Cecily was already at Tobias Hart's elbow with a glass of white wine in her hand, talking to him low and fast and unhappy. The family looked at Nathan the way a family will look at something that has wandered in out of the weather. Not mean, exactly. Evaluative. Like everyone in the room had the same small, silent checklist, and Nathan was being scored against it in real time. Lena kept one hand on the small of his back. It was light. It was nothing, objectively. He felt it like a brand. An older man with a red face came up to them immediately. "Margaret's grandson-in-law, are we?" Just Nathan Cole. "Ha! Good answer. I'm Harold, cousin by marriage. Old enough that nobody listens to me. Drink? I'm driving later." "Good man. Good man. Ellie, is it? Eleanor?" "Eleanor. Yes. Formidable. Tell me, Eleanor, do you like shrimp?" "I don't know." "You're about to find out. There's shrimp. Come tell me after lunch whether I was right to recommend it." Ellie, who was suspicious of shrimp on principle, nodded politely. Harold drifted off. A cousin in her 30s came up next, a hand extended, her smile thin but not cruel. Then a cousin's husband who talked too loud about yachts. Then a woman in her 60s who asked Nathan what he did, and when he said garage, simply said, "Ah, honest work," in a tone that Nathan had heard all his life from people who meant it to mean something nicer than it did. Lena's hand stayed on his back. At one point, a man came into the room, and Nathan felt rather than saw Lena go still beside him. The man was tall, 40, maybe 42, silver at the temples, a jaw you could cut yourself on, a suit that had been cut in London by someone who knew him by name. He was alone. He stood in the doorway for a second, scanning the room, and his eyes stopped on Lena and stayed there. He smiled. It was a nice smile, a careful one. Nathan knew, before Lena said anything, who this was. "Adrian," she said, almost under her breath. Adrian Vance started walking toward them. Nathan felt Lena's hand press harder, just for a second, between his shoulder blades. He understood it. "Lena." Adrian's voice was low and warm. It was the voice of a person who had been told a lot of times that he had a good voice. "You came. I was always going to come." "Were you?" His eyes moved to Nathan, moved down to Ellie, came back up. The smile did not change. "You've brought guests. My boyfriend, Nathan Cole, and his daughter Eleanor." The word boyfriend landed in the middle of the room, even though only 4 people could have heard it. Nathan felt the attention of the room shift half an inch in their direction. Adrian said without missing a beat, "Nathan, a pleasure." He extended his hand. Nathan took it. Adrian's grip was exactly as firm as Tobias's had been, exactly as long, and his eyes held Nathan's for 1 beat longer than any normal person would have held them, and then he let go. "I'm told you work on cars." "I do." "A noble profession, My father used to say the only honest men in America were the ones with dirt under their fingernails. That's a nice thing for him to have said. He didn't mean it as a compliment, I'm afraid, but I think he was wrong. All right, Adrian turned to Ellie. And you must be Eleanor. Ellie? Ellie, I like that more. It's sharper. Do you like cars too, Ellie? I like trucks. Trucks? Even better. Trucks are honest. My father would have liked you. Nathan felt Lena's hand twitch against his back. Adrian noticed. Nathan watched him notice. Adrian was the kind of man who noticed everything and filed it away and used it 3 hours later in a way you could not quite point at. Adrian, Lena said, we were about to sit. Of course. Forgive me. We'll talk more after. I'm sure of it. He smiled. He stepped aside. Lena guided Nathan to the table with the lightest possible pressure of her hand, and Nathan walked, and Ellie walked between them, and they sat, and Nathan's heart was hitting his ribs like a fist on a door. At the table, Adrian was across from them. Not next to. Across. Close enough that his eyes could land on them whenever he wanted them to. Far enough that he could pretend not to be looking. An older woman with silver hair swept back into a chignon sat to Adrian's right, and Nathan knew without asking that this was Vivian Vance, because she looked exactly like a woman who had raised a son to be the man across the table and had enjoyed every minute of the project. Grandmother Margaret sat at the head. Lena was on her left. Nathan was on her right. Ellie was next to Nathan. The shuffle had visibly annoyed several people. Aunt Cecily, 2 seats down, was not eating. Grandmother Margaret lifted her glass. Welcome. Before the speeches begin tomorrow night, let me say one thing today. Family is not the thing you are born into. It is the thing you choose to tend. Look around this table. Tend it well. She drank. Nathan watched. That was a grandmother's toast, yes, but it was also a sentence with bricks in it. He looked across the table at Adrian Vance, who was smiling a polite smile, and at Vivian Vance, who was not smiling at all. Ellie, beside him, quietly slid her hand into his under the table. He squeezed it once. The soup came. Halfway through the second course, a waiter appeared at Lena's shoulder and murmured something to her, and she excused herself and stood. She did not look at Nathan. She walked out of the dining room with her small steps. Nathan watched her go. Across the table, Adrian Vance watched her go too. Then Adrian's eyes came back to Nathan. They held there. He took a small sip of his wine. He did not smile. Nathan held the look. He did not smile either. He picked up his fork and cut a piece of chicken and kept his eyes on Adrian while he did it. Not aggressive, not challenging, just not looking away. He had worked enough with men who needed to win the room to know that the trick was not to fight them. The trick was to refuse to agree that the room needed winning. After a second, Adrian looked down at his own plate. A small flicker crossed his face. Irritation, maybe. Or something close to it. Vivian Vance saw it. She glanced at her son and then at Nathan, and her mouth did a tiny thing at one corner, and Nathan understood in that second that she was the one he was going to have to worry about. Ellie tugged on his sleeve. Daddy! Yeah. The man across from us keeps looking at Our Lady. I know, Bean. Is that the bad man? He's a person we don't know yet. But is he the bad man? Eat your shrimp. I don't like shrimp. Eat the potatoes. The potatoes are okay. Lena came back into the room a minute later, and her face was composed, but her eyes were not. She slid back into her seat next to her grandmother. Grandmother Margaret did not look at her, but her hand moved briefly and rested on Lena's wrist for a second under the table edge, and then moved away. Lena leaned slightly toward Nathan and said, very low, not now, later. Okay, I'm okay. Okay. The lunch ended. People stood. The room broke into small knots of conversation. Nathan got Ellie up and out of the room as quickly as he could without being rude, and Lena walked with them, and as soon as they were back in the long, quiet hallway, she turned to him. It was a text. From his number, it said, "You're going to embarrass yourself." From Adrian. From Adrian. Nathan looked at the hallway wall for a second. He looked back at her. Okay, he said. New information. Do you want to go? I can't. You can. I'll drive us all out right now. I'll call Marion. We'll be at the hotel in 20 minutes. You can make the call from there. Your grandmother will understand. She won't. and it won't stop anything. It'll just start the next thing, and the next thing is worse, because then he knows he can push me and I'll go. I can't let him know that. Lena, I know how it sounds. I know. I need to get through tonight. The party, the dance. After that, I've got a plan. I swear to you, just get me to tomorrow afternoon. A plan? Yes. Are you going to tell me what it is? Her eyes flicked to Ellie. Ellie was pretending to examine a painting and failing to hide that she was listening. Not in the hallway, Lena said. Okay. Nathan. Yeah, I'm scared. A little. I want to say it out loud because it helps if I say it out loud. I'm scared. I'm not going to do anything stupid, and I'm not going to put you or her in trouble, but I'm scared, and I just want somebody to know. He looked at her. She looked tired, the way she had looked that first day in his garage, only more so. He said, I know. Thank you. Come on, Ellie needs to not be in this hallway anymore. They went back to the suite. Ellie climbed up on the bed and took off her shoes and sat cross-legged with Pepper, the plastic horse, in her lap. Lena sat in the small armchair by the window. Nathan stood, because he did not know what else to do with his body. After a while, Lena said to the window, I wasn't going to tell you the part that comes next until tonight. I don't want you to know it in front of Ellie. Then don't. I'm going to. Lena. I'm going to. She turned her head. Her eyes found him. My mother wasn't at the table, she said. You didn't notice because why would you? My mother isn't going to be at the party either. My mother has been in a private psychiatric hospital for 11 years. My grandmother pays for it. Tobias doesn't like that she pays for it. He has tried, twice, to move her somewhere cheaper and farther away for reasons of efficiency. I have fought him on it both times. If this merger happens, the money routes through one arm of the company, and my grandmother loses the leverage to keep paying for my mother's care in the way she has been paying for it. Do you understand what I'm telling you? He was very quiet. He's using your mother. He's using my mother. Yes. And Adrian knows he's using her. Adrian knows. His mother knows. They're fine with it. That is the part I can't. She stopped. She did not cry. She held still, her hands in her lap, her face very steady. And she did not cry, and Nathan thought that was somehow worse. Ellie very quietly slid off the bed. She crossed the room. She climbed up into Lena's lap like she had done it 100 times. Lena's arms came up automatically, and she held her, and her eyes closed, and she put her chin on the top of Ellie's head and breathed out, one long breath, and still did not cry. Nathan sat down on the edge of the bed because his legs were not interested in doing the standing thing anymore. He looked at the two of them. He thought about driving out of the gate. He thought about picking Ellie up and carrying her to the truck and putting the engine into gear and going. He did not move. He said, Okay. 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 We get through tonight. Whatever you're planning, we get through tonight to do it. You tell me what I need to do. I'll do it. She opened her eyes. You don't have to. I know I don't. Nathan. What? Why are you saying yes? He thought about it. He thought about it for longer than he had thought about the first yes in the office. Because nobody should go down there alone, he said. And because my kid is sitting in your lap and you're holding her like you know how, and I don't think people who know how to hold other people's kids like that are the people I should be walking away from. That's all. That's a lot. It's the truth. She laughed, very soft. It sounded wet. Nathan Cole, she said to the top of Ellie's head, you are a problem I did not account for. Likewise. The party was in 6 hours. Outside, the lawn was gold in the late sun, and a black town car was turning slowly up the drive, and in one of the upstairs windows, Vivian Vance stood with her hand on the curtain, watching the drive without moving, and no one in the suite downstairs knew she was watching yet. Ellie, in Lena's lap, said, Your heart is going fast. I know, sweetheart. Mine too sometimes. Yeah? When I have to do math in front of everyone. That's a good reason. You can squeeze my hand if you want. Daddy does that. It helps. Okay, said Lena. Okay, I will. She put her hand over Ellie's small one, and she squeezed. Ellie squeezed back. Nathan sat on the edge of the 4-poster bed in a house that did not belong to him, looking at a woman who did not belong to him holding a daughter who did. and realized, somewhere under the noise in his chest, that he was not going to leave tonight no matter what happened in it, and that this was something he was going to have to survive figuring out. Outside, somewhere deep in the house, a clock that no one had wound in 40 years chimed 4, and it was wrong by 13 minutes, and nobody in the house seemed to mind. The wrong clock kept chiming things. It had no business chiming, and Nathan used the sound to pace himself through the hours that stretched between the luncheon and the party. Ellie eventually slid out of Lena's lap and back onto the bed, where she fell asleep with Pepper tucked under her chin and one sock half off. Nathan sat next to her, his hand on her back, the way he used to when she was a baby who would stop breathing for 3 seconds at a time in her sleep and scare the life out of him. He could still do it. He could still feel the rise and fall through his palm, and it still anchored him when nothing else did. Lena was at the window. She had not moved in a long time. "You should try to rest," he said, quiet, so Ellie wouldn't wake. "I can't." "Yeah, I figured. Do you want me to leave so she can sleep better?" "No, she sleeps through anything. Last year she slept through me dropping a toolbox in the kitchen. You're fine." Lena turned from the window. The sun had moved. Her face was half in shadow now, and it made the tired under her eyes look bruised. "Nathan." "Yeah, the plan. I want to tell you while she's asleep." "All right." She came over. Not to the bed, to the small chair by the nightstand, so they could keep their voices low. She sat with her knees pressed together and her hands folded and looked at Ellie for a second before she started talking. "For about 6 months," she said, "I've been building a file. Emails, forwarded texts, screenshots of board meeting minutes that I wasn't supposed to have access to. An audio recording from a dinner 2 Christmases ago where Tobias and Adrian's mother discussed openly in front of me because they assumed I was drunk and wouldn't remember, discussed moving my mother to a facility in Vermont as a cost measure." They used those words. The facility they were talking about is a warehouse with a roof. I went there. I drove up there last April and walked around the parking lot until somebody asked me to leave. I know what they meant. Asham. Nathan did not say anything. He just listened. "I have bank records I shouldn't have. I have a pattern of transfers that the regulators are going to care about, if anyone ever shows it to them. I have a letter from Adrian to Tobias sent last year, where Adrian says in writing that the Lena question will resolve itself once the engagement is announced. I have everything, Nathan. I have enough to end Tobias. I have enough to make Adrian's family quietly uninterested in him for 6 months while they do damage control. I have enough to make Vivian Vance very, very unhappy." Then why haven't you used it? "Because the second I use it, I lose my grandmother." "What?" "She doesn't know what I have. If she knew, she would tell me to burn the file and marry Adrian and keep the peace. She wants the peace, Nathan. That's the thing about her. She wants the family intact more than she wants anything. If I take this to a regulator or a journalist or even just to the board, my grandmother would be the one who pays. Her reputation, her chair, the name she spent her whole life building. Tobias would twist it so it looked like she'd known. She'd be forced out. The shock would kill her." "So what are you going to do with it?" "I'm going to use it once. Tonight, or tomorrow morning, depending on how this goes. Not to burn them down. To make them stop. I'm going to put enough of it in front of Tobias and Vivian, privately, that they understand the engagement cannot happen, because I will ruin them both before I walk down any aisle. They'll back off. They'll have to. And my grandmother will never have to know any of it happened. That's a knife to your own throat, Lena." "I know. They can call your bluff." "I know. What if they decide it's worth the risk? Then I use it. All of it. And my grandmother—" She stopped. "Then I use it." Nathan looked at her for a long moment. The thing he wanted to say, the thing he was not going to say because it was not his place, was that she had been alone with this for a long time. Too long. You could see it on her, in the way she sat, in the way she had flinched in his garage a week ago. People who had been holding things alone for a long time held their bodies a specific way, and he knew it because he had been one of them for 4 years. "Okay," he said. "So what do I do tonight?" "Tonight, I just need you to be there. That's all. You don't have to say much. You don't have to charm anyone. You don't have to defend me. In fact, I would prefer it if you didn't, because if you do, Adrian will take it as a reason. Just be there. Be my boyfriend. Hold my hand when we walk in. Dance with me once, because there will be a dance, and Adrian will ask me if I don't have somebody to dance with. Sit with me at dinner. That's it. Don't engage Tobias. Don't engage Vivian, especially not Vivian. If she talks to you, let me answer for both of us. She is looking for weak points. If you give her one, she will use it. What kind of weak points? Anything. She'll ask about your ex-wife. She'll ask about your daughter. She'll ask what school your daughter goes to and how you pay for it. She'll ask things that sound like she's making conversation, and then she'll go stand in a corner with Tobias and put them together into something. She sounds like a piece of work. She is. Lena paused. Her husband died 4 years ago, by the way. Since you asked about her wedding ring earlier, in your head, I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. You look at hands. I noticed at the shop. You look at people's hands to figure them out. Everybody's got to tell. Yours is that one. I'll work on it. Don't. They sat in the half-dark for a minute. Ellie shifted in her sleep and turned toward Nathan and pressed her face into the side of his thigh, and he stroked her hair back and kept his voice very quiet. The file, he said. Where is it? Most of it's on a drive in my bag. Some of it's in an email to myself that sits in drafts. Some of it's with a lawyer in Boston who doesn't know what's in the envelope. He just knows to open it if I miss a call on a certain day of the month. It's a dead man switch. That's a very grown-up thing to set up. I'm 31, Nathan. I know how old you are. I didn't know how else to do this. I'm not criticizing you. I know. Sorry. I'm at the end of the rope. You're at the end of a rope that other people tied. She looked at him. He did not look back at her because if he did, he was not going to be able to do the job he had said he would do tonight. He kept his eyes on Ellie and stroked her hair. Lena. Yeah, if this goes sideways tonight, if Adrian pushes or Tobias does something or whatever, the deal you and I have stays the same. I'm not going to turn on you in front of them, even if I'm scared. Even if I don't know what's happening, I'll follow your lead. Nathan, I just want you to know that, in case I don't get to say it later. Don't say things like, in case you don't get to say them later. It sounds like a war movie. It feels like one a little bit. I know it does. I'm sorry. Stop being sorry. I can't. That's my version of the thing. What thing? The hands thing. You look at people's hands, I apologize. Try not to. Okay? I mean it. Starting tonight. No more apologies from you for being somewhere you have every right to be. She was quiet. Okay, she said. Good. At 6, someone knocked on the door, and a different woman than Mrs. Alden, younger, kinder-faced, wearing a white apron, said that the tailor was downstairs to fit Mr. Cole's suit, if he'd like. I already have a suit, Nathan said. The woman smiled, apologetic. Mrs. Hart asked me to offer, sir. The grandmother. Yes, sir. Nathan looked at Lena. Lena's mouth moved in a small way that was not quite a smile. Go, she said. Trust me, it's faster than saying no to her. He went. Ellie was still asleep. He kissed the top of her head first and told Lena, at the door, not to let her wake up alone, and Lena said she wouldn't, and Nathan went down the back stairs with the kinder-faced woman and found himself in a small paneled room with a tailor's form and a man of about 60 with a measuring tape around his neck. The tailor did not talk much. He asked Nathan to take off his shirt. He measured his shoulders. He made 2 small sounds with his teeth. He opened a garment bag Nathan had not seen him bring in, and inside was a dark navy suit that was clearly made for someone close to Nathan's build, but not for him. Mr. Hart's suit, the tailor said, from some years ago. Mrs. Hart asked me to alter it for you tonight. Mr. Hart. Her son, Miss Lena's father. Nathan went still. I don't. Try it on, please, sir. He tried it on. It fit him almost everywhere. The tailor pinched it in at the waist and marked a tiny adjustment at the inside of the left sleeve and chalked a line at the hem, and the whole thing took less than 20 minutes. When Nathan came out, he had the suit over his arm in its bag, pressed and pinned, and promised to be delivered to his room in an hour. The kinder-faced woman met him in the hallway. Mrs. Hart asked me to tell you something else, sir. All right. She said, quote, "Tell him it means nothing, it's only cloth, but I would rather see it tonight than see it in a closet." Nathan swallowed. "Thank you." "Of course, sir." He went back upstairs. He did not tell Lena whose suit it was. He did not know how. He put it on in the bathroom at 7:30, with the door almost closed, and when he came out, Lena was sitting on the edge of the bed in a long, dark dress the color of midnight water, and her hair was up, and she looked at him and went very still. "Oh," she said. "What?" She did not answer for a second. Then she said, "That's... Whose suit is that?" "Your grandmother had it sent up." "That's my father's suit." "Yeah. She gave you my father's suit. She said to tell you it means nothing and it's only cloth." "That's what she says when she means something." "I know." Lena stood up. She crossed the room. She stopped about a foot in front of him and looked up at him with her face composed in that particular way she had, and then she reached up and straightened his collar, a small adjustment he did not need, and let her hand rest there for 1 second too long before she took it away. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." Ellie had been wrangled into her blue dress and a cardigan and the good shoes and a ribbon she had tied herself, and she was holding Pepper the plastic horse with a grip that suggested she understood, without anyone telling her, that tonight was going to be a test. Nathan picked her up because she had asked to be carried, and he held her on his hip, and the three of them went down the wide hall together toward the sound of music rising from the ground floor. The ballroom was the thing in the house that could not pretend to be anything else. It was a ballroom. Old wood, cream walls, a small orchestra on a low dais at one end, chandeliers that had been real candles 50 years ago and still looked like they remembered being real. About 80 people were already in the room, and the murmur of them was the particular murmur of people who all knew each other and had complicated opinions about each other. The moment they stepped in, the murmur shifted. Nathan felt it without having to look. He kept his face easy and his hand on Lena's lower back and walked her in slow, the way you walked a dog past a barking one, and Ellie kept her head on his shoulder and looked at the ceiling. Grandmother Margaret was already seated near the orchestra, holding court from a chair that someone had clearly had moved there for her. She saw them. She did not wave. Her mouth moved the smallest possible amount when she saw Nathan in the suit, and Lena walking beside him felt it too, because her fingers dug into his palm for just a second. Adrian Vance was on the far side of the room. He was holding a drink. He was in a black tuxedo that had been cut to make him look exactly as good as he looked. He was talking to a cluster of men Nathan did not know, and they were all listening to him, and when he saw Lena come in, his eyes moved up, and he did not smile, and he did not frown, and he did not come over. That was the worst of all, Nathan thought. A man who could not come over and who did not need to. Tobias came over instead. "Lena, you look lovely. Mr. Cole." "Uncle." "Nathan. The orchestra has been paid an embarrassing amount of money to play whatever we ask. Mother was very specific. She wants the first dance to be her own." "Of course." "And then tradition says the first dance of the evening goes to the eldest grandchild. Which is you, dear?" Lena's hand tightened on Nathan's. "I was going to sit that one out." "Oh, but you can't. Adrian will be insulted." "Adrian's not my grandmother." "No, but he's your..." "He's my nothing, Uncle Tobias. We've talked about this." "Lena." Tobias's voice did not lose its warmth, but the warmth thinned. "Not tonight. Please." Lena looked at him. She looked at him for a long second. "Nathan will dance it with me." Tobias blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The first grandchild's dance. Nathan will do it. He's the person I'm with." "He's..." "Lena." Tobias laughed, short. "He doesn't know the waltz." Nathan said quietly, "I can hold my own." Tobias glanced at him. The laugh was gone from his face now. "Of course you can, Mr. Cole. Forgive me. I simply meant... It's a choreographed piece. The family knows it. It's done every year." "I'll figure it out." "I really must insist." "Uncle," Lena said. "Don't." Tobias's face did something Nathan would think about later. There was nothing in it exactly. No anger, no hurt. Just a door closing, 3 feet thick, somewhere behind his eyes. He smiled. "Of course, dear. Your choice. Naturally." He nodded. He moved away. He walked across the ballroom to the cluster of men around Adrian, and he said something to Adrian that took about 10 seconds to say. And Nathan watched Adrian receive it, and saw nothing at all in Adrian's face either, and thought simultaneously that he was maybe going to throw up, and that he was maybe going to see this through. "What did I just do?" Lena whispered. "Something honest." "That was stupid." "Maybe." "Nathan, I don't know how to dance either." "Yes, you do. Not the way they're about to play." "Then we'll make something up." "Oh, God. Don't get scared now. We're fine. Hey, look at me." She looked at him. "You said one dance. We're going to do one dance. It's going to be a little bad. Everybody's going to notice. That is fine. Let them notice. You're not here to impress them." "They're going to, let them." Ellie, still on his hip, said, "Daddy, what about me? Am I dancing?" "No, Bean. You're going to sit on Great-Grandma Margaret's lap and help her with her cake." "She has cake already?" "She will in a minute." "Okay. I will also be nice and not spill. That's all I ask." He looked at Lena over the top of Ellie's head. "Where do I put her?" "My grandmother. Really?" "You said there was one good one." Lena laughed, a short, almost disbelieving sound, and shook her head. Okay. Yes. Follow me." They crossed to Margaret. People watched them cross. Nathan understood very clearly that he was walking through a room that was not going to forget him for a long time. He tried not to care. He cared anyway. Ellie's heel was digging into his hip bone, and it helped him walk steady. Margaret did not move to stand. She just held out her hand to Ellie, who reached back without hesitation. Nathan set her down gently, and Ellie climbed up into the chair beside Margaret and laid her head against the old woman's thin arm like she had been practicing for it. "Mrs. Hart," Nathan said. Margaret, thank you for the suit. I told you, it's only cloth." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me tonight, not in that." "Yes." Her eyes went to Lena, to Nathan, to the dance floor, where the orchestra was shifting into the first piece. "Dance well," she said. "Or dance badly, whichever you like. Just dance like you mean it." "Yes." "Go." They went. The middle of the room cleared. A path opened. Lena and Nathan walked out into the space, and Lena put one hand on his shoulder and kept the other in his, and the orchestra started to play something old, something Nathan half recognized from a movie he had fallen asleep during. He did not know the steps. He did not try. He held her, and he moved, and she moved with him, and she kept one step behind until he figured out a rhythm he could trust, and then she matched him. It was not a great dance. It was not even a good one. They were half a beat off the music for the first 30 seconds, and Nathan nearly stepped on her foot once, and he could hear at the edge of the floor a small cough from a cousin who thought that was funny. But Lena did not falter. She kept her eyes on his, and her face did not arrange itself into the practice thing. She just looked at him like he was a door she had walked through on purpose. "I told you," she said, very low. "I don't know the steps." "Nobody does. They're all pretending." "No, Nathan. Everybody in this room knows this dance. Then we'll be the only honest people in the room." "Oh. Just don't let go." "I'm not letting go." Halfway through the piece, Nathan felt eyes on him from the edge of the floor, and he knew, without looking, whose they were. Adrian was standing by one of the long windows, one hand in his pocket, watching. Nathan did not look back. He kept his eyes on Lena's face. He watched her. He let her see that he was watching her, and not the man at the window. Because that, he thought, was the actual job. The piece ended. The room clapped, politely, the way polite people clap at things they resent. Lena did not let go of his hand right away. She looked up at him for a second, and her eyes had something in them he did not have a name for yet. And then she remembered where she was, and she let go, and they stepped off the floor. Adrian crossed the room the moment they did. "Lena, a word." "Adrian, one word. One dance then, since you're—" "Nathan got the first. One dance. It's my right as your oldest friend." "You're not my oldest friend. I'm your oldest something." He held out his hand. The room had turned quietly to watch. Nathan stood beside Lena, and her knuckles were white on the hem of her dress, and his own pulse was loud in his ears, and he did not know what to do. He had told her upstairs that he would follow her lead, and she had told him not to engage. Lena took Adrian's hand. She looked at Nathan once. Her eyes said, "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine." They walked to the floor. The orchestra started again, softer this time. Adrian put his hand on her waist the way men put hands on things they have decided belong to them, and Nathan, standing alone at the edge of the floor with his own empty hands, had to make a conscious decision not to cross the room. He turned. He walked to the chair where Margaret and Ellie were sitting. He sat on the low ottoman beside them, not because he wanted to, but because if he kept standing he was going to do something that would break Lena's plan, and because Ellie needed a thing to hold on to, and because Margaret, without looking at him, had moved her hand to rest on the arm of his chair in a way that was as close to a hand on his shoulder as a woman like Margaret Hart would ever manage. "Breathe," Margaret said, very quiet. "Yes, ma'am." "She knows what she's doing." "Yes, ma'am." "Do you?" He looked at her. She was not looking at him. She was looking at her granddaughter on the floor with Adrian Vance. "No, ma'am," Nathan said. "Good," said Margaret. "Men who are sure of what they're doing are the problem, usually." On the floor, Adrian was saying something to Lena. Lena's face was composed, but Nathan could see the line of her jaw from here, and he could see her fingers, white on the back of Adrian's suit jacket. Adrian's mouth moved. Lena's mouth moved. Adrian's mouth moved again. Lena stopped moving entirely for 2 beats, which threw the dance off, and Adrian pulled her back into rhythm with a pressure at her waist that was not gentle. Nathan's hands, without him meaning to, closed into fists on his knees. "Easy," said Margaret, still not looking at him. "Yes, ma'am." The piece ended. Lena stepped back from Adrian the moment the last note dropped. Adrian held onto her hand for exactly 1 beat longer than he should have, and then he let go, slowly, and he bowed, a small theatrical thing, and he walked her off the floor and straight to Nathan, and he did not stop at the chairs. He brought her over, and in front of Margaret, in front of Ellie, in front of Nathan, he said, "Congratulations, Nathan. You've won the first round. Few men have." "It's not a round," Nathan said. He did not stand up. "Everything is a round, Mr. Cole. I'm told you're a mechanic. In a mechanic's world, I suppose a car is either running or not. In my world, there are rounds, and there are longer rounds, and there are the rounds that everyone pretends aren't happening while they happen. Tonight was a round. I look forward to the next one." "Adrian," Lena said low. Margaret looked up at Adrian. She did not stand. She did not have to. Her voice, when it came, was the voice of a woman who had once run a company of 2,000 people, and you could hear every one of those years in it. "Adrian?" "Mrs. Hart." "Go away." Adrian paused. His smile did not move. His eyes did. There was a small flare in them, a thing that lasted maybe a quarter of a second, and then it was gone. And he nodded, and he said, "Of course. Happy birthday again, Mrs. Hart." "It isn't my birthday until tomorrow." "A preface, then." "Go away." He went. Across the room, Vivian Vance was watching the whole exchange. Her hand was wrapped around the stem of a champagne flute. She did not drink. She did not move. She watched her son walk to her, and she said something to him without turning her head toward him, and he answered without turning his head toward her. And then they were both simply standing there, side by side, looking at Lena and Nathan and Margaret and the little girl with the plastic horse. "She's decided," Margaret said, quiet, to Lena. "I know. She'll do something tonight. I know. Use the dinner. Don't wait. The dinner is the window." "I know, grandmother." "Lena, look at me." Lena looked at her. Margaret's eyes, close up, were not old eyes. They were hard and clean and sorry. "Whatever it is you've been keeping," Margaret said, "the thing I have been trying not to ask you about, whatever it is, don't protect me tonight. Do you understand? Don't." Lena's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Whatever I lose," Margaret said, "is worth less than what you are about to lose. Do you understand me, child?" "Yes." "Say it again." "Yes, grandmother." "Good." Ellie had been watching this whole exchange with her concentrating face on. Now she held Pepper the plastic horse out toward Margaret again. "You should hold her," Ellie said, serious. "For a minute. You have a hard face right now." Margaret took Pepper. Her thin hand trembled, just a little, around the horse. "I do," she said to Ellie. "I have a hard face right now, thank you." Dinner was called. They went into the second, longer dining hall, and the seating had been rearranged from the luncheon. This time Lena was not at Margaret's left. She was farther down, at an awkward angle. Nathan was not at Margaret's right. He was 2 seats down, across from a cousin who wouldn't look at him. Tobias was where Lena had been. Adrian was next to Lena. On the side Lena could not easily stand up from without disturbing an entire row. Lena looked across the table at Margaret. Margaret looked back at Lena. Margaret gave the smallest possible shake of her head, which meant Nathan understood. I did not do this. And then Margaret looked down the table at Tobias, and her eyes changed, and Tobias pretended not to see them. Lena leaned toward Nathan. She had to lean across an older woman who gave her a look. She said, very low in his ear, I'm doing it at the toast. Now? At the toast to my grandmother, I'm doing it then. Stay in your chair. Don't get up. Let me do it. Lena, please. Nathan, please. Okay. If they come for me. If anyone physically, I'm there. Okay. I'm there, Lena. Whatever that means. I'm there. Okay. She pulled back. The wine was being poured. A staff member refilled Nathan's glass, even though he had not drunk any of it. Ellie was at a small table on the side with the other children, supervised by a nanny in a gray dress, and she was smiling at something one of the other kids was saying, and she was going to be okay for the next 10 minutes at least. The first course was set down. Soup. Nathan could not remember what kind. He could not taste it. His heart was beating in his ears. He watched Lena at an angle. He watched Adrian beside her, watching Tobias. He watched Vivian, 3 seats down on his own side, watching nothing in particular and therefore watching everything. Halfway through the second course, Tobias stood up, tapped his glass. Friends, family, before we continue with this wonderful meal, before the speeches, which I know will be long and which will come later, I wanted to take a small unofficial moment to say something that has been on many of our minds. The room quieted. Lena set down her fork. Slowly. Tonight, Tobias went on, in this room, with family and the dearest of friends, I am delighted to be able to announce, informally, that 2 families who have been woven together for generations are about to be woven tighter. I speak, of course, of the Harts and the Vances. My niece Lena and Adrian Vance have... Lena stood up. She did not shove her chair back. She did not throw her napkin. She simply stood, smoothly, and the movement was so quiet that Tobias did not at first notice she was standing. Adrian noticed. Adrian's hand went quick to her wrist on the table, and Nathan saw it, and he was on his feet before he had decided to be. Adrian, Lena said, calm. Let go! Adrian let go. Tobias was still talking. Lena and Adrian have decided, Uncle Tobias. After much thought, Uncle Tobias, stop. The room went utterly still. Tobias stopped. He turned slowly, and his face was the polished neutral Nathan had seen when he had first come into the hallway that morning. Lena, dear, nothing has been decided. There is no announcement. I'm not marrying Adrian. I have never agreed to marry Adrian. I have said no at this table, in this house, over a period of 3 years, more times than any of you can count. And now I'm saying it in front of everyone. I'm saying no. That is not the end of what I have to say, but that is the beginning. You could hear the orchestra in the other room, through the wall, a soft, long note like something on the edge of breaking. Tobias set down his glass. Very carefully. Lena, you're upset. I'm not upset. You're overtired. I'm not overtired, Tobias. Stop. Everyone here is family. Everyone here loves you. Sit down and we'll... I have a file. Tobias stopped moving. Vivian Vance's hand around her champagne flute tightened until the skin went white. I have a file, Lena said again. Her voice shook only at the edges. I have had it for months. Some of you know what I mean. Some of you don't. The ones who don't need to, tonight. The ones who do. You know exactly what I mean. And I want to say, out loud, in front of my grandmother, in front of my family, so that nobody can pretend later that I did not say it. If this engagement is announced by anyone, in any form, at any time, if any press release is drafted, if any quiet conversation is had with a reporter, if any line item appears in any internal document, I will send that file in full to 3 places at once. You know which 3. I have people who know to send it if I cannot. This is not a threat. This is a description. Lena. Tobias's voice was soft. Sit down. No. Lena, sweetheart, please. I am not your sweetheart. I have not been your sweetheart since my father died and you started looking at me like I was an asset. I am nobody's asset. I am nobody's engagement. I am not. Adrian stood up. Nathan moved before Adrian did. He did not run. He walked. Around the end of the long table, past the cousin who would not look at him, past the older woman beside him who made a small, alarmed sound. He walked with his hands at his sides, and he walked to Lena, and he stopped behind her chair, and he put one hand on the back of it, and he did not touch her. He did not need to. Adrian stopped. He looked at Nathan across the table. Nathan said nothing. Adrian looked at Lena. Lena did not look back. She was looking at Tobias. I don't know what she thinks she has, Adrian said to Tobias, in a voice that was almost conversational. I know exactly what I have, Lena said. Do you want me to list it, Adrian, right now, here? Do you want to know the exact date of the dinner in December when your mother told my uncle that my mother's transfer to the Vermont facility would simplify cash flow? Because I know the date. I know who ordered the wine. I know what the wine was. Do you want me to start there? Vivian Vance set her glass down. Very carefully, she stood up. Lena, Vivian said, and her voice was the voice of a woman who had, until this moment, been winning. You're making a mistake. I'm not. You're embarrassing your grandmother. No, Vivian, you are. At the head of the table, Margaret Hart, who had not moved, who had not spoken, who had been holding Pepper the plastic horse in her lap under the edge of the tablecloth the whole time, slowly lifted her head. Vivian, Margaret said. The room turned to her. Sit down. Vivian's mouth opened. Sit down, Vivian. In my house. At my table. You will sit down. Vivian sat down. Margaret looked at Tobias. You, she said. Out. Tobias's mouth moved. Mother, out of this room. Now. We will finish this in the library after the guests have left. Out. Tobias did not move for a second. Then he did. He set his napkin on the table. He walked to the door. He did not look at Lena. He did not look at Nathan. He did not look at his mother. He went out. Margaret looked at Lena. Go on, she said. Finish what you were saying. Lena's hands were shaking, not visibly. Nathan could feel the small tremor through the back of the chair he was holding. He kept his hand there. He did not touch her. I'm done, Lena said. That was all I needed to say. Good. Margaret turned in her chair, slowly, to face the rest of the table. This is my birthday weekend. This is my family. My granddaughter has said something true. The rest of you are welcome to stay for dessert or not, as you please. But nothing was announced tonight. Nothing will be announced. There is no engagement. There never was. If anyone at this table says otherwise, in this room or outside of it, you will answer to me. Do I make myself clear? Nobody said a word. Good. Dessert in 15 minutes. Margaret looked at Lena. Her face did something that was, for Margaret, almost tender. Sit down, child. You look pale. Lena sat. Nathan stayed behind her chair for another second, and then he walked, slow, back to his own seat. As he passed Vivian Vance, she did not look up at him. Her hand was flat on the table. Her knuckles had gone a color Nathan had only ever seen on the faces of people who had just been in a car accident. Adrian sat down too, eventually. Dinner continued. Mostly. The ones who could eat ate, the ones who could not pretended to. A cousin, brave or oblivious, tried to start a conversation about sailing, and it limped along for about 2 minutes and then died. Ellie, at the children's table, was finishing a bowl of ice cream that had arrived early for her, and she was watching the adults the way she watched cartoons, serious, curious, not quite understanding but knowing something had happened. Nathan reached, under the table, for Lena's hand. She gave it to him. She squeezed once, not 2, not 3, just once, and then she held on. Margaret, at the head, lifted a small water glass and she said, quiet enough that only the nearest people heard her, but loud enough that everyone understood the tone. To the truth, which is the hardest gift a family can give itself. Nobody clinked glasses. A few people lifted theirs, a fraction of an inch, and set them down. Nathan lifted his. So did Lena. So did Ellie, at her table, who had heard her great-grandmother's voice and was looking over, and who lifted her little glass of sparkling apple juice with both hands, like a real toast, like she understood exactly what had been said, even though she couldn't. Across the room, Vivian Vance stood up, slowly, and walked out of the dining hall without excusing herself. Her son stayed because he was the kind of man who did not leave a room in front of other men if he could help it. Nathan, holding Lena's hand under the table, watched Adrian across from them and understood that the hard part of the weekend was not over. That, in fact, the hard part had only just found out that it was the hard part. He squeezed Lena's hand 3 times, slowly. She turned her head very slightly toward him. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying. She did not need to leave the room, she said with her face. Not yet. He squeezed once more to say, okay. And somewhere in a dark part of the house, a door slammed hard enough that the chandelier shivered. The chandelier stopped shivering after a few seconds, but the silence they left behind was a different kind than the one before the door had slammed. Before, the silence had been the held breath kind. After, it was the kind where everyone in the room understood that something had actually happened and that pretending it hadn't was no longer an option. A few guests stood up. A couple of older cousins drifted toward the door in a way that tried very hard to look like it was about something else. Somebody's husband asked for the car to be brought around. Somebody's wife said the drive back to the city was long. Within 10 minutes, half the table had found reasons to be somewhere else. Margaret let them go. She did not thank them for coming. She did not stand. She sat at the head of the table with her hands folded and watched them leave the way a person watches weather. Adrian Vance was one of the last to stand. He did it slowly. He folded his napkin the way his mother had probably taught him when he was 9. He looked across at Lena. He did not look at Nathan. He said quiet, and only loud enough for the few people still at the table to hear. I'll find you before I go. No, you won't, Lena said. Lena. No, Adrian, you will not find me. You'll leave. You'll get into your car. You'll go back to your mother's house, or her hotel, or wherever she's gone to pull herself together. And in a week, your people will call my people, and we'll have a very short phone call where everyone pretends nothing happened. That is how this ends. That's not how this ends. It is tonight. I'm not walking out of here like a man who... Adrian? Margaret's voice from the head of the table, not loud, not angry, final. Go. He stood there for a moment. His jaw worked once. Then he turned and he walked out. He did not bang any doors. He did not need to. His mother had banged enough for both of them. When he was gone, Margaret looked at Lena. Go upstairs. Grandmother, go upstairs, Lena. Take the girl. Take Mr. Cole. Go to the East Suite. Lock the door behind you. I will deal with my son. I should be there. You will not be there. Grandmother, he is going to lie to you. I know he is going to lie to me. Margaret's hand tightened briefly on the arm of her chair. I have been letting him lie to me for a decade because the alternative was losing him. I am done losing him. Go upstairs. Lena hesitated 1 second longer. Then she nodded. She stood up. Nathan stood up with her. Across the room, Ellie slid off her chair at the children's table and came around with Pepper under her arm, slightly sticky from ice cream, and she slipped her hand into Nathan's as naturally as if they were leaving a grocery store. They walked out of the dining hall together. In the long hallway, Lena's hand was in his the entire way, but she did not say anything. Her breathing was not steady. Twice she stopped for half a second as if to lean on the wall and did not, and kept walking. Nathan did not ask if she was okay because he already knew the answer, and asking felt like an insult. At the door of the suite, Ellie whispered, Daddy, is she crying yet? Not yet, Bean. She might. I know. That's okay. Okay. Inside the suite, Nathan closed the door and turned the lock. Because Margaret had told him to, and because he did not trust Vivian Vance to be in a part of the house he did not know the boundaries of. Lena crossed the room to the window and put her forehead against the glass. Her shoulders started to shake. Not sobs, just shaking. Her breath fogged a small circle on the pane. Ellie looked up at Nathan. Nathan nodded. Ellie went to Lena, quiet, and put Pepper in her hand, and then she wrapped both her arms around Lena's leg, just above the knee, and held on. Lena made a small sound. Nathan crossed the room too, slower. He stood behind them. He did not try to turn Lena around. He just put his hand flat on her back, between her shoulder blades, where the dress was cool and her spine was warm underneath it, and he held it there. I've got you, he said. Nathan. Yeah, I don't know what happens tomorrow. You don't have to know that tonight. I just, I've been planning this for so long and I didn't plan for after. I only planned for the saying of it. I never got past the saying. I don't know what I... Lena. Yeah. Sit down. I can't. Sit down just for a minute. The floor, the bed, whatever. You've been standing for 4 hours. She let him lead her to the small chair by the window. She sat. Her knees pressed together, her hands still shook. Ellie, without being told, climbed up into her lap again, and Lena's arms came around her without thinking, and she pressed her mouth against the top of Ellie's head, and the tears finally started, very quiet. The kind that did not make a sound, the kind that just went. Nathan pulled the other chair over and sat opposite her, close enough that his knees touched hers. Breathe, he said. Let's see. That's all you have to do right now. Okay? Not through your mouth, your nose, like this. He breathed. She tried. She got it on the second try. Again. She did. There. I hate that that works. Yeah, it's the worst when the basic things work. She laughed, wet, and Ellie said, Are you okay now? Not all the way, sweetheart, but more than before. Okay. They sat there, the three of them. For a long stretch of time Nathan could not have measured afterward. He kept his hand on Lena's knee. Ellie kept her face against Lena's collarbone. After a while Lena stopped shaking. Her breathing evened out. She did not stop crying exactly, but the crying went quiet, and she let it, and Nathan thought about how much of her life she had probably spent making sure nobody ever saw her do that. And he thought, specifically, that he was proud of her. And then he did not know what to do with that thought, so he put it away. After a while, there was a soft knock at the door. Nathan stood up, crossed to it, looked through the small peephole. Margaret. He opened the door. She was smaller than she had been 2 hours ago. That was the first thing he noticed. Nothing about her clothes had changed. Nothing about her posture. But her face, up close now, in the soft light of the hallway, looked like a face that had taken a beating and was walking itself back to its room on purpose. She came in. He closed the door. She crossed the sitting area to Lena, and she stopped in front of her, and for a long second the two of them just looked at each other. Then Margaret said, He denied everything. I knew he would. He denied everything until I told him what I had heard with my own ears. Vivian, Margaret stopped, wet her lips. Vivian was not careful during the Christmas dinner you mentioned, 2 years ago. I sat 4 seats away from her and Tobias after the meal. They spoke in low voices, but I am old and I am not stupid, and I heard what they said about your mother. I have been pretending for 22 months that I did not hear it. I am done pretending. I told him so. Lena was staring at her grandmother. You knew. I knew enough, not the file, not the bank records, but the pieces of it, yes, I knew. Why didn't you? Because I was a coward, child. Margaret's voice cracked for the first time. Because he is my son. Because I raised him, and I failed him somewhere, and I did not want to know how badly I had failed, because I thought if I waited long enough, it would go away. And because I thought you were stronger than he was, and you were, but I asked too much of you. I am sorry. I am 80 years old tomorrow, and I am sorry, and there is no good time to say a sorry like this, but I am saying it now, because tomorrow I might not have the nerve. Lena was crying again. Different tears this time. Margaret did a thing Nathan would remember a long time. She lowered herself slowly with one hand on the arm of the chair until she was on her knees in front of her granddaughter, like a person half her age, and she put her thin hands on either side of Lena's face. You are my son's daughter, she said. You have been my daughter for 12 years, and I did not see you the whole way. I see you now. That is the only thing I can promise. I see you. And tomorrow, when I am 80, I will do the only thing I have left to do, which is to sit in the library with the whole family, and I will end Tobias's career in this company, and I will do it in front of everyone, and nobody will be able to unmake it. Do you understand? Grandmother, you don't have to. I do have to. I have waited too long. It was never your job to protect me. It was my job to protect you. I did not do it. I will do it now. Grandmother, say yes, Lena. Give me this. Yes. Good. Margaret kissed her forehead. Then she reached out and touched Ellie's hair very briefly, and Ellie, still pressed against Lena, turned her face and looked at the old woman. You're nice now, Ellie said, serious. I was trying to be nice before, child. But you were the hard kind of nice. Now you're the soft kind. Margaret made a sound that was half a laugh and half something Nathan did not have a word for. Yes, she said. Yes. I am very old, and I have been the hard kind of nice for a very long time, and I'm going to try to be the soft kind for as long as I have left. Thank you for telling me the difference. You're welcome. Margaret stood slowly. She looked at Nathan. Her eyes were dry. Her mouth was not quite steady. Mr. Cole? Nathan, I asked you to dance like you meant it. You did better than that. You stood behind her chair like you meant it. That was the part I was watching. I didn't do much. You did what she needed. That is the thing most men fail at, and they go to their graves not knowing. Yes, ma'am. You will come tomorrow, to the library, at 11. Ma'am, I want you there. You and the girl. I want everyone in that room to know who my granddaughter walked in with, because tomorrow, when I say what I'm going to say, it will matter that they see that she is not alone. All right. Good. Sleep. Both of you. All three of you. I will handle the rest of the house tonight. She went. The door closed softly behind her. Lena sat in the chair and held Ellie and did not move for a long time. Eventually Nathan said, You want me to call Marion. Tell her we're fine. Please. He stepped into the sitting area and made the call. Marion picked up on the first ring and he said, Hey, we're okay. It's a mess, but we're okay. I'll call in the morning. Nate? Yeah. Did you do the thing? What thing? The thing where you stand in front of a woman when somebody's being a jerk to her. Kind of. Figures. Hotel's fine. Pool has a jacuzzi. Call me at 8. Okay. He hung up. He went back into the bedroom. Lena was already up, setting Ellie on the big 4-poster, taking off Ellie's shoes with hands that had steadied. Ellie was mostly asleep already, the way kids fell asleep when the adult drama in a room had passed a certain threshold. Nathan helped Lena get the good dress off her daughter, his daughter, and into the pajamas from the plastic bag, and they tucked her in, and Ellie murmured something that was probably "Good night, lady," and fell all the way under before they got the blanket up to her chin. They stood there looking at her. She loves you, Nathan said, before he thought about whether to. I love her. I know. I know I've known her 2 days. I know. It's not... I don't mean it in a... I just mean... I know. I know you know. Yeah. They stood there for another minute. Neither of them moved. Lena's face, in the low light of the bedside lamp, was softer than he had ever seen it. The dress was wrinkled. Her hair had come halfway down out of its twist. Mascara had run a little, and she had wiped it without a mirror, so there was a small smear of black near her temple. She looked like a person who had been through something and was still here, and was not pretending not to have been. He said, quiet, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met. Don't. Why? Because if you say things like that tonight, I'm going to do something I can't take back. Like what? Like, Nathan. Yeah. Please don't make me name it. He looked at her. She looked at him. Her eyes were clear now. Okay, he said. Not tonight. Okay. Not because I don't... I know. I just mean, I know. Okay. They left Ellie asleep under the covers and went into the small sitting area between the 2 bedrooms. Lena sat on the little sofa. Nathan sat on the other end of it, one leg crossed over the other. The lamp between them cast a yellow circle. Outside, the house was quiet in a way it had not been all day. Somewhere, very far, there was the tick of the wrong clock. Still wrong, still 13 minutes off. I used to think, Lena said, eyes on her hands, that if I could just keep my head down for a couple more years, I could outwait them. I could outwait Tobias until grandmother died, and then I could leave, and I could go do anything I wanted with my life. I had I had apartments picked out in a couple of cities. I had a plan where I'd travel for a year. I had the name of a nonprofit I thought I'd volunteer for. I was going to be, I don't know, a quiet woman. A woman who didn't have to smile at people she hated. What changed? The facility in Vermont. I drove up there and I saw it. I came home and I started the file that night. I've been two people since then. The one at every dinner who still smiled at Adrian across the table, and the one at home, typing names into a spreadsheet. That's hard work. It was easier than the other thing I'd been doing. Which was? Pretending none of it was real. He nodded, slow. He thought about the early mornings in his kitchen after Rebecca had died, before he had known how to be the father he was now. He thought about the way he had, for maybe 6 months, simply not felt things on purpose, because feeling them was going to break something he did not have time to get fixed. He did not say any of that, but he understood what she had just said in a way he understood almost nothing else. "What happens tomorrow?" he said. "I don't know exactly. Grandmother will do what she said. I'll be in the room. It'll be public enough inside the family that Tobias won't be able to slide out of it. She'll probably move him to a non-voting role. She'll probably appoint an interim someone. She'll probably give me the seat he had, or offer it, or I don't know. I haven't thought past her making it stop." "Do you want the seat?" "No." "You sure?" "I don't know. I don't know what I want yet. That's the scary part. I've spent so long knowing what I did not want, I haven't practiced the other side of it." "You'll figure it out." "Will I?" "Yeah." "You say that like you know." "I know what people look like when they're figuring it out. You look like that." "I look like I've been crying." "You can look like both things." She smiled, a real small smile, and she let her head rest back against the top of the sofa. "Nathan." "Yeah, I didn't lie to you about the weekend." "I know. I mean, I didn't think about what would happen if I actually liked you." "Oh." "I was going to pay you and let you go and never call you again. That was the plan. That was, the responsible plan. And then you brought your daughter, and your daughter gave my grandmother a plastic horse, and you haggled me down on the fee, and I stood in your shop and cried in a parking lot in my car for 10 minutes after. And I have been trying since Thursday to figure out how to walk you back out of my life without being dishonest about why." Lena. "And I don't have to tell you any of this tonight. I know that. I know tonight is a lot. I know you have a shop and a daughter and a whole life in a town I don't live in. I know I'm a person with a file of blackmail material in her luggage. I know what I am offering is ridiculous. But I'm offering it because I was taught, when I was 11, by a woman who was my father's cook, and the only person in that kitchen who ever told me the truth, that when something real happens, you name it, because the ones that get lost because people wait." He was quiet. He was quiet for a long time. He put his hand up and rubbed the back of his own neck. "Lena, it's okay. Let me say it. Just let me say it. Okay? I'm 32. I have a kid. I have a shop that mostly pays the bills. I have a sister who's going to have a field day when she finds out any of this. I have not dated anyone since my wife died. Not once. I have not tried. I stopped thinking about it. I got good at not thinking about it. 4 years. And then you walked into the shop and I looked at your shoes and I thought, uh-oh. That was the first thing I thought. Uh-oh. This is going to be trouble." And I was right. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what any of this is. But I know that when you stood up at that table tonight and started talking, I was more scared and more proud at the exact same time than I have been at any point since the day Ellie was born. She was crying again, the soft kind. "I don't have a ring or a speech or a thing I've been practicing," he said. "I'm not good at this. I'm a mechanic. I fix things that are broken and leave them alone when they're running. What I'm saying is, I don't know exactly what's starting, but I don't want to walk it back. I don't want to be the kind of person who waits until a feeling is convenient. And I've got a kid in the next room who picked you out like a piece of fruit on the first day. She picked you, my kid. And she doesn't pick people. So, we take it slow. You figure out your life. I keep fixing cars. We see what it is. And we don't lie to each other, even about things that hurt. Deal? Deal. Okay. Okay. She reached for his hand. He let her. She did not pull him toward her. She just held it. They sat like that for a while. "Nathan." "Yeah." "Thank you for not making me say it by myself." "Yeah. And for the record, I'm scared of you a little." "Same." Good. At some point, without planning it, he put his arm along the back of the sofa, and she leaned into his side, and they stayed there like that, awake and quiet, until Nathan realized Lena had fallen asleep against his shoulder. Her face was relaxed in a way he had not seen in any part of the weekend. He stayed very still, so he wouldn't wake her. He stayed there eventually, most of the night. He slept for maybe 2 hours at the far end of the sofa, with Lena's head in his lap and a throw pillow under her cheek, and Ellie's quiet breathing coming through the open door of the bedroom. In the morning, he woke to a gentle knock at the suite door. He untangled himself. He checked on Ellie, who was asleep with both arms flung out. He opened the door. It was Mrs. Alden, with a tray of coffee and a small folded card. "The library at 11, sir. Mrs. Hart asked me to remind you. Breakfast is downstairs in the east parlor when you're ready." "Thank you." "Sir?" "Yeah. I just wanted to say—" Mrs. Alden's face, which he had pegged on Friday as professionally unreadable, did something small. "We are glad she is all right. The staff. We have been worried about her for some time. We are not supposed to say things like that, but I understand. Thank you, sir." She left. Nathan carried the tray inside. Lena was sitting up on the sofa, rubbing her eye with the heel of her hand like a child. "Coffee," he said. "Thank God." "Thank Mrs. Alden." "I love Mrs. Alden. I'm going to buy Mrs. Alden a house." "Okay, 11 o'clock. Library." "I know." She took the coffee. Their fingers touched. She smiled at him over the rim of the cup, small, tired, real. And Nathan thought, for the first time in a long time, that he was looking at somebody's face in the morning on purpose, and the feeling did not hurt the way he had assumed for years that it was going to. At 10:55, they went down to the library. It was a room Nathan had not seen before. Dark wood, 2 stories, a ladder on rails against the long wall, a fire and a hearth that was not really necessary this time of year, but that Margaret had apparently asked for anyway. The Hart family was assembled, about 20 people. Tobias was there, pale, standing by the far window with his hands clasped in front of him, the way men stand when they are pretending not to know what is about to happen. Aunt Cecily was beside him, her mouth a thin line. Vivian Vance was not there. Adrian was not there. They had been asked, politely, Margaret said later, to be gone by breakfast. They had gone. Margaret sat in a wing-back chair near the fire. When Lena and Nathan and Ellie came in, she lifted her hand very slightly, and they walked over and stood beside her chair, and Margaret put one papery hand on Lena's wrist, and then she began to speak. She did not raise her voice. She did not have to. She told the family, in plain words, what Tobias had been doing. She named the bank transfers. She named the plan for Lena's mother. She named the merger. She did not use the file Lena had built. Lena had not given it to her. But she did not need to. She used what she herself had heard, what she herself had seen, what she herself had been too afraid to say out loud for 22 months. She told the family she had failed them by staying silent. She told them she was correcting it now. She stripped Tobias of his operational role. She named an interim. She said the board would ratify it inside a week. She said that any attempt to fight it in public would be met, by her personally, with the rest of what she knew, and with anything else her granddaughter chose to share, and that she would spend the last of her money and the last of her name, if necessary, to make sure the truth was clean in the family's history. Tobias said, "Mother, please." "No. Mother, if we can just talk privately." "Tobias, I have been talking privately with you for 46 years. I am talking publicly now." Aunt Cecily tried to say something. Margaret did not let her. "Cecily, you will have the chance to speak. Not now. Now you listen." Cecily listened. Margaret finished. Her hand stayed on Lena's wrist the whole time. Lena did not speak. She did not have to. Her grandmother had said it all. When it was done, Margaret looked around the room, slow, and her eyes landed on Nathan, and she said, in the same calm voice, "I would also like the family to know that my granddaughter, last night, stood up in our dining hall and told the truth of her life for the first time in 12 years. She did it with a man beside her who is not of this family, who owes this family nothing, who had no reason to stand where he stood, and who stood there anyway. His name is Nathan Cole. He is, as of this morning, in whatever capacity he chooses, a person I consider family. I would like all of you to look at him once, so that if any of you see him again in the future, you will remember his face and the circumstances under which I welcomed him." The room looked at him, reluctantly, one by one. Nathan did not know where to put his face. He kept it steady. He kept his hand on the back of Lena's dress, at the small of her back, where it had been the whole walk in. Ellie, who had been holding his other hand the entire time, leaned up and whispered, "Daddy, everybody's looking." "I know, Bean." "Am I supposed to wave?" "No, Bean, just stand there." "Okay." The meeting broke, eventually, without applause, without thanks, without any of the softness Nathan had half expected from the end of something that big. People simply filed out. Tobias was the last to go. He walked out past his mother without looking at her, and she did not look at him either, and Nathan watched the two of them fail to meet eyes and understood that something between a mother and her son had just ended forever, and that Margaret had done it on purpose, and that it was going to cost her more than she had let anyone see. When the room was empty, Margaret closed her eyes and let her head fall back against the wingback for a minute. She looked, finally, like an old woman. Lena knelt beside her. "Grandmother, don't." "You did?" "Don't, child. I don't have the strength for any thanks right now. I just need to sit." "Okay." Margaret opened her eyes. She looked at Nathan. She looked at Ellie. She reached a hand, slow for Ellie's. Ellie took it, both of hers around Margaret's one. "Child," said Margaret, "come back to see me. You in particular. I will be around a while longer. I would like to see you in the spring." "Okay." "Bring the horse." "Okay." "Good." They drove home that afternoon. Ellie fell asleep in the truck within 10 minutes of clearing the gate. Nathan drove. Lena, in the passenger seat, looked out the window most of the way. Now and then she reached over and put her hand on his on the gear shift, and neither of them said anything about it, and neither of them took their hand away. At the gas station on Route 7, the same one where they had met on Saturday morning, which felt like a week ago and 3 days ago at the same time, they pulled over so Nathan could get coffee, and Lena got out to stretch her legs, and they stood for a minute in the late afternoon sun in the empty part of the lot and just looked at each other. "I'm not going back to that house," Lena said, quiet. "No, I'm not going to my apartment either, for a while. I have somewhere. A friend. A real one. I'll go there for a week or two. I need to breathe." "Yeah." And then, "Yeah. I'll call?" "Yeah." "Okay?" "Okay." She hesitated. Then she crossed the 2 feet between them, and she put her hand flat on his chest, and she went up on her toes, and she kissed him once, on the cheek, just at the corner of his mouth, slow enough to count and short enough to stay honest. Then she stepped back. "Thank you, Nathan Cole." "Lena." "Yeah. Drive safe." "You too." She got into the Jaguar. It started clean, the way he had fixed it. She pulled out of the lot, and the sun caught the back window, and she lifted one hand off the wheel in a small wave, and then she was gone. And Ellie in the truck murmured something in her sleep, and Nathan stood there for another second with the coffee going cold in his hand, and he thought, very clearly, the first honest thing he had thought about his own future in 4 years. He thought, okay. He got into the truck. He drove his daughter home. The town did not know anything had happened. That was the strange part, the part Nathan kept coming back to in the weeks after. He came home on a Sunday night, and on Monday morning he opened the shop at 7 like always, and Mr. Delgado dropped off his Buick with a coolant leak at 7:15. And by noon, Nathan had his hands inside an engine and grease up to his wrists, and nobody in the whole town had any idea that a family in Connecticut had been quietly taken apart over dinner 2 nights before. Lena called on Wednesday. Not about anything in particular. Just to say the friend's house was quiet, the bed was soft. She had slept for 11 hours straight the first night, and she was going to stay through the month. She called again on Saturday, then Tuesday, then every few days, not at a scheduled time, just when she had something to say. Sometimes it was big. Tobias had agreed not to fight the board. Her grandmother was tired but steady. Her mother's care was secure. The lawyer in Boston had gotten his envelope back unopened, and sometimes it was nothing, just the way a cardinal had landed on the railing of the porch. She was reading on, and she had thought about telling somebody, and she realized the somebody was him. He did not always know what to say back. He stopped trying to be clever about it. He just listened. He told her about Ellie's math test and about the Silverado that had come back for the third time with the same mystery rattle. He told her Marion had not, in fact, had a field day, but had instead said, "Well, finally," and changed the subject, which was her version of field day. He did not say he missed her, because he was not sure what that word meant yet between them, but he thought about her at the kitchen sink most mornings, and he knew she knew it. She came back in April, not to stay, just to visit. She drove up on a Friday, in a rented car this time, not the Jaguar, because the Jaguar was now with her grandmother in Greenwich, where it belonged. Ellie saw her through the front window and was out the door and into her arms before Lena had fully stood up out of the driver's seat. Nathan stood on the porch and watched the two of them, and Lena looked up at him over the top of his daughter's head, and the look on her face was the look of a person coming home to a thing she had not been sure was going to still be there, and finding that it was. They did not rush anything after that. She came up weekends, then longer weekends. In July, she stayed 3 weeks. By fall, she had found an old farmhouse about 15 minutes from the shop, on a road with a stone wall along one side, and she was painting rooms by herself on ladders that were too tall for her, and Nathan was pretending badly that he was not happy about any of it. On a cold Sunday in November, he and Ellie drove over with a pot of soup Marion had made. Lena was on the porch in an old flannel, a paintbrush in one hand, her hair in a clip. She straightened when she saw the truck. She waved the brush. Ellie was out before the engine cut off. "Lady, I have been painting for 4 hours and I hate green now." "We brought soup." "I love soup." "We also brought Daddy." "I love—" Lena caught herself, grinned, embarrassed. "I love soup, and also Daddy." Nathan came up the steps with the pot. "Hey, hey." He set the pot down on the little table by the door and looked at her for a second, and she looked back. And he reached out and tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. The same small gesture he had seen her do to her own collar in the mirror at her grandmother's house 8 months ago, and she let her forehead rest against his shoulder for a breath. Ellie watched this with the face she used for important information. "Are you two married now?" she said. "No, Bean." "Are you going to be?" "Maybe someday, Bean." "Okay, soup." They ate soup on the floor of a half-painted room because Lena had not bought furniture yet and did not seem to be in a hurry about it. Ellie told Lena about a boy in her class who ate glue on purpose. Lena told Ellie about a woman in the grocery store who had argued with a melon. Nathan did not say much. He watched them. He thought about how, for a long time after Rebecca, he had believed his real life was the part that had already happened, and everything after was just the part where he kept his daughter alive until she could keep herself alive. He had been wrong. He had been wrong about it the whole time. Later, when Ellie had fallen asleep against Lena's side with her mouth half open, Lena whispered, "Nathan, yeah, I don't miss any of it. The house, the money, the name. I thought I would. I don't. Good. I miss my grandmother. I know. She's coming for Christmas. She wants to meet your sister. I told her to wear armor." He laughed. Lena leaned her head against him. "Nathan, yeah. This is enough. This is what enough feels like, right? Because I never knew." He thought about it. He thought about his garage and his kid asleep on a woman's shoulder in an empty farmhouse on a cold afternoon, and about how the whole shape of a life could turn sometimes on somebody walking into your shop in the wrong shoes and asking you for a lie. He thought about how the lie had been the only honest thing either of them had done in a long time. He thought about how you could spend years believing you were not the kind of person who got to have a second act, and then somebody's small daughter hands her plastic horse to a stranger, and somebody's old grandmother gives you her son's suit, and it turns out you were that kind of person the whole time and just had not met the people who were going to show it to you yet. He said, "Yeah, this is it." She closed her eyes. Outside, the light was going a long gold color over the fields behind the farmhouse. A truck passed on the road with a loose chain rattling against the bed. A cardinal landed on the porch railing. Ellie sighed in her sleep and pushed her face harder into Lena's ribs and did not wake up. Nathan sat there with the two of them, in a room that smelled like paint and soup, in a house that was not finished, in a life that was not finished either, and for the first time in a very long time, he did not want it to be. The end.